Good morning, good morning, good morning. First, let me say good morning to Faraway Eyes. Thank you for joining memberships. Welcome to the 11 billion club. And thank you so much for your super chats. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Thursday, everybody. Hey, sleuths, good morning. Okay. Um, I came prepared today. I have a backup plan just in case the first witness and subsequent witnesses decide they're going to opt out. Um, I know, Mo. This is very exasperating. I'm exasperated too. I thought it was good as well, Sluice. I really did. I thought there was some stuff in there that like I had not heard before or known before. And so I found it to be very good and informative. I thought honestly I was kind of the only thing I was really surprised about was that it was only 3 episodes. I thought they would do more. Like particularly um more backstory, I suppose. But it was really well done. I mean, honestly, the 3 episodes were really well done, and I remember when I was on the 3rd episode and I pushed pause because what was I doing? Oh, I had to get the chicken nuggets out of the oven, and I it felt like I had just started watching it, and when I push pause, you know how it'll show you how much time you have left, and I looked and I was like, "What the hell?" So I will tell everybody, um, that the 3rd episode is significantly shorter than the 3rd or the 2nd and 1st episode. The 3rd episode is significantly shorter than the first 2. So we're already off to a rip-roaring start. I'm already making bumbles in my speeches. I have I can't, I'm solely today for now relying on the StreamYard chat, which I don't really like to do because I don't trust it. But I have to because I've got the lawn crime one pulled up on my phone, but I'm about to switch it. I'm about to add it to the stream. Just in case. I like to be keeping an eye out now. I forgot what else I was going to tell you guys. Oh, so if you missed the stream last night or you came in late or whatever, um, I am going to cover the Valo Daybell trial. Of course I am. I mean, come on. And there's a ton of other trials coming up too that I hopefully that if they're streamed, your girl will be watching them. Um, Give me just a second here. Okay. All right. Oh, in other news, I want to tell you guys something real quick. Hold on. I saw this when I was like reading the news. So just give me a second. I don't. Okay. So, are you guys familiar? Oh, you're welcome, Lorianne. Good to see you. Welcome. Are you guys familiar with the Adnan Syed case? Okay, so basically, if you're not, Adnan Syed was convicted for the murder of, um, hang on just a second, because I'm scrolling and I can't do both at the same, for his in 2000, for the murder of his ex-girlfriend Hay Min Lee. Okay, then are y'all ready? Baltimore prosecutors filed a motion Wednesday. The prosecutors filed a motion Wednesday asking for a new trial for Adnan Syed, whose case was the subject of the hugely popular first season of the Serial podcast. A statement from the Attorney General's office cited newly discovered evidence. Quote, after a nearly year-long investigation reviewing the facts of this case, Syed deserves a new trial where he is adequately represented and the latest evidence can be presented, Baltimore City's attorney Marilyn Mosby said in the statement. Syed is serving a life sentence after he was convicted of first-degree murder, robbery, kidnapping, and false imprisonment in February I can't even talk, 2000 for the slaying of his ex-girlfriend Heyman Lee. He has maintained his innocence and has been appealing his convictions for years. Quote, as stewards of the court, we are obligated to uphold confidence in the integrity of convictions and do our part to correct when this standard has been compromised, Mosby said. Quote, we have spoken with the family of Miss Heyman Lee, and they fully understand that the person responsible for this heinous crime must be held accountable. The state will request that Syed be released on his own recognizance pending the investigation if the motion to vacate his conviction is granted. Quote, we believe that keeping Mr. Syed detained as we continue to investigate the case with everything that we know now, when we do not have confidence in the results of the first trial, would be unjust, end quote, Mosby said. The reinvestigation revealed evidence, quote, regarding the possible involvement of two alternative suspects other than Syed, the statement said. Quote, the two suspects may be involved individually or may be involved together, end quote, the statement said. Mosby said prosecutors are, quote, not asserting at this time that Mr. Syed is innocent, end quote. But the state, quote, lacks confidence in the integrity of the conviction, end quote, and that Syed should get a new trial. Syed and prosecutors in March filed a joint motion for post-conviction DNA testing, saying that since the crime occurred more than 2 decades ago, quote, DNA testing has changed and improved drastically, end quote. The March motion asked that the victim's clothing be tested for touch DNA, which was not available at the time of the trial. Items now being tested were not previously tested in 2018 when the Baltimore City Police Lab tested various items for DNA, with the exception of the victim's fingernail clippings, Mosby's statement said. Mosby said the motion to vacate was filed along with Sentencing Review Unit Chief Becky Feldman. Syed was a juvenile when convicted. The suspects were known persons at the time of the original investigation, quote, and were not properly ruled out nor disclosed to the defense, end quote, according to Mosby's statement. The state is not disclosing the names of the suspect, but said that according to the trial file, one of them said, quote, he would make her, in parentheses, Miss Lee, disappear. He would kill her, end quote. The investigation also revealed that one suspect was convicted of attacking a woman in her vehicle, according to the statement. The second suspect was convicted of engaging in serial RAPE and SA, the statement said. Some of the information was available at the time of the trial, the statement said, and some came to light later. It is not clear when these assaults took place. So there you go. I know. He shouldn't have. Good morning, Corky. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So, yes. Oh, did it, Mo? Good morning, Tony. Good morning, everybody who's just joining us. Yeah. So, I'm super excited about that case. The fact that the prosecution is asking for a new trial and he's to be released on his own recognizance. Yes. So, that is huge. All right. Let me make this bigger. Okay. Let me add it to the stream while we watch because it's 9:06 now. Hold on, let me see. It's not muted. We're ready to go. Yeah, gonna be released on his own recognizance, which is, amazing. Amazing. And what's also interesting is that there's, at this point, at least, nothing that I can find um, respective to what his like options are going to be. You know what I'm saying? So if they if they vacate his sentence and they grant him a new trial and he is subsequently acquitted, that's the right word, which would be really exoneration because he's already had this is a retrial. So if he's exonerated and acquitted, right? I'm curious what his options are moving forward with potential lawsuits, etc. So no, I don't know. The article doesn't speak to the new suspects. I would be I feel like if the suspects were named in the new motion, the press would have it because the motion would be a public record. So I'm very curious about it. It sounds like now it makes me want to watch the HBO documentary again, the case against Adnan Syed, because I feel like there was mention of at least one potential suspect who sort of matches what that article is talking about as far as his like criminal history. So I'm very, very curious about all of this. I'm very curious as well, Mo, because they obviously know. This is the reason, and this is the other thing. So, this isn't the article. The article I just read is not the first article I read. This is actually the second. They both say similar things. Actually, this was from CNN and it was way more detailed. But the defense and the state work together somewhat in this investigation. So this is big, huge news. Big, big, huge news. So we might have let's see how this motion goes. Let me see. Let me look at this article and see how long the judge has to review this. If it says how long the judge has to review this motion and when we might be hearing an answer. Okay. This is an interesting, as I was scrolling, I want to read this part again. The suspects were known persons at the time of the original investigation, quote, and were not properly ruled out nor disclosed to the defense, according, end quote, according to Mosby's statement. And for those of you from Watts Island, if you know, you know, that is an example of of a Brady violation, not questions asked during a lie detector test. Just saying. If you know, you know. Yes, I was a petty Betty for just that moment. No, I don't regret it. Hmm. Well, so yes, that's exactly what a Brady violation
Thank you. Please
is.
be seated.
Well, a Brady violation is not handing over potentially exculpatory evidence, other withholding other
Today is
suspects that
September
they
15,
investigated,
2022. This is another day of
etc.
trial in the case of State of Ohio plaintiff versus George Washington Wagner IV, case number
I'm blown away every time he says
2018-0155.
his name.
Defendant is present in court
George Washington
with John Parker
Wagner
and
the
Richard
Fourth.
Nash as lawyers. The
Bruh.
state is represented by prosecuting attorney Rob Junk and special prosecuting attorneys Angela Canepa and Andrew Wilson. Also Ryan Scheiderer with Ohio BCI and I, special agent with that.
But yes,
agency
Mo,
is present in
exculpatory
court.
evidence is the correct term. Evidence of innocence.
One matter that's come to the attention of the court was that there was a motion filed this morning entitled Motion to Take Judicial Notice, Motion 110, Defense Motion 110.
Oh, Jesus.
So the court would just make inquiry about how counsel proposes that we handle hearing on that motion and when.
We were just served with it this morning. If we
Right.
can just have a little bit to kind of look at it. We've been spending our time this morning getting set up for the presentation. So we can just have a few minutes, maybe we'll address it later.
Yeah.
Or a day or two. I mean,
I'm sorry.
Or a day or two. It's just
Yeah,
not certain.
yeah.
I just found out
Well,
at this
that's
moment.
really what the court's inquiring about is
Yeah.
when we
Calm
need
down,
to
ma'am.
schedule this. We can take some time to schedule it unless there's some urgency in scheduling that. I'm not sure whether this is, this would probably be a request that if it were granted that the court so instruct the jury. So I'm not sure that it needs to be decided immediately, but it's something.
You're absolutely
It's not-
right, Tony.
I think the sooner the better, only because we've had a recent issue on this, and I think a delay on that notice. In other words, I just think the timing of this would be better if it were closer to, especially with the cross-examination yesterday. But moving beyond asking the court to take judicial notice, as I've noted in the motion, on June 21st, the state of Ohio and the defense stipulated that the address is in Scioto County. And so I guess we're falling back on judicial notice as a second, but I'd like for the court to recognize that the parties did stipulate that that address is in Scioto County. And
Well,
so that may resolve it here this morning.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's I saw that you had argued that there, and frankly, I'm not sure what the record shows about any stipulations. But now, Mr. Junkie, you were going to say something?
Yes, Your Honor, we'd like to have a chance to digest this and review the record before we're prepared to respond to this. And in any event as well, too, as far as the jurisdiction and venue, it's going to be controlled by 290112, H 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Anyway, again, this is an urgent matter. It doesn't need to be get dealt with until a good ways down the road when we're looking at instructing the jury.
A portion of this, at least, was argued in Defense Motion 85. But as far as the stipulation, if there is one, is concerned, the court would have to review the record about whether that is there or not. But as a prosecutor argued there, I think that there are other venue provisions that the state would argue would apply anyway. But yeah.
If I may, Your Honor,
Yes.
we're not asking to revisit that motion to dismiss. We're not asking to dismiss the charges or that venue's not present. We're simply addressing an issue that came up yesterday, a factual issue and evidence. And so, whatever the statute says in 2901 regarding venue is not an issue. We're just talking about the testimony that came out regarding that statement, and it's a stipulated fact here. So I just wanted to be clear with the state and the court. We're not asking to revisit motion 85.
What are you asking for? You just want it
You're
to be
asking
on
the
the
court to make a
record?
factual determination and instruct the jury that way. I assume
Yes.
that's what you're asking.
Okay,
And Judge,
okay.
just to be clear, we're not withdrawing our previous motion. We're asking the court to revisit how we maintain our position. That it came up through the prosecutor's direct examination, at least one witness, maybe two yesterday, about this issue. And so, if the state wants time to respond, they can, but they did stipulate previously, we've provided the court with a certified copy of the public records that support our position.
And specifically, the address that you're dealing with, or that your motion mentions, is the 3122 Union Hill Road address.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So the
I
court will
love her
schedule
passion. I
that.
really do. I admire her.
With the council here for a hearing, but today we'll proceed with our trial.
Just
I'll
FYI,
give the state time to digest the motion.
George is wearing the same vest.
Thank you, Judge.
However, he has
Thank you,
switched
Your
from a
Honor.
blue pinstripe shirt
One
to
other thing
white.
we could put on the record. We just want to make sure our continuing objection is noted to the pictures of the victims being projected onto the screens.
What?
I think all of the pictures have been identified by numerous witnesses. There's really no factual need, as far as I can anticipate, to revisit those issues. Those pictures are not going to be in dispute in this trial. So we would just ask that they not be projected on the screen if the state intends to use them today.
I'm
Okay,
not sure what the state's response to that is. You want to give a response to it?
bless
Your Honor,
it.
regarding the first three scenes, that there will be only minimal.
Okay. We can read along. They're just haggling. I'm going to have to look into this further because I'm not entirely there's been a couple of motions filed previously and that have to do with jurisdiction and who has jurisdiction over this case, because it appears that the defense is arguing that the physical addresses of the homes are not actually Pike County. And I'm going to have to look into it further because I'm not completely 100% understanding what the latest motion is regarding and what specifically they want the court to recognize and what the potential implications are about all of that. So this is one of the drawbacks of watching something live. It's very, it's difficult. Maybe I'll get better at this as I progress as far as streaming these live trials into understanding and being able to on the fly just sort of look up these things for you guys so I can better understand it. What I can tell you is it appears that it has to do with testimony given yesterday. But what the defense is saying is that it happened under direct, which obviously would be the state. And these are the state's witnesses. So I'm not 100%. I'm just kind of following. Thank you, sleuths. I'm just kind of following along with you guys right now. And I'm trying to piece it together so that I can at least research it and hopefully understand it.
Make the court aware of exactly how this procedure is to occur.
Okay, hold
That
on.
certainly a witness can refresh their recollection. Evidence Rule 612 permits that to happen. But the witness's memory must be exhausted first after the course of preliminary examination. So the manner in which this has been going through is somebody testifies and then a document is like, you wrote this document, right? Well, that's exactly what the Supreme Court says is not supposed to happen. There's supposed to be an exhaustion after examination that they cannot recall that fact. That's step one. And then if they have exhausted that witness's memory and they cannot recollect that fact, okay, now it's proper to refresh their memory with the document. But moving on,
Oh,
we can't read it aloud to them. We can't have the witness read the document aloud, and we can't place it before the jury as well. And I think there's been at least one document that's been marked as an exhibit. I understand it hasn't been admitted, but both of these points that I'm making is Supreme Court precedent. And like I said, it hasn't been a major issue yet, but I see it as a continuing course of conduct. I kind of want to make the court aware of that we shouldn't be going down this road.
uh-oh.
And at least on the first case that I told you about, that we must exhaust the memory of the witness before we go there, that's State v. Scott, 31 Ohio State 2nd.
I know what he's talking
And
about.
that is on pages
This
5
one I
and
know.
6. And then we must not read the statement aloud, have the witness read it aloud, or otherwise put it before the jury. That's State versus Baloo. That's 1996 case. That's 76 Ohio State 3rd, 244. And that quote is on page 250.
Now, I don't know what happened yesterday with some of the witnesses,
Does the
obviously,
state wish to?
but
Your Honor, we had
Hold
the
on.
EMS, Miranda Cable, the final witness, identifying her run sheet because she wrote it out in her own handwriting. It's kept in a matter of course business, so it's a business record exception, first of all. I just had her identify it. He is correct. I did not move to admit it. At the time I do move to admit it, if we do, these arguments may be proper. But it was my recollection that she did not recall the exact time, and I asked her if it would help refresh her recollection, and she said yes. So
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. The other incident I can recall, and there may be other incidents that you're referring to, Mr. Nash, but Officer Ball couldn't remember whether he had gloves on or not, and he reviewed that.
Yeah, and I believe Bobby Joe Manley had prepared a written report.
and so did James.
She actually testified consistent what was within her statement. Nevertheless, the state gave her that document, had her read that document. It was exactly consistent with what her memory was when she testified, and I think they even marked it as an exhibit. It's that type of stuff that's improper.
It is
And that's what
improper.
we're
He's
just
right, you
bringing the
guys.
attention to the court that shouldn't be happening.
In Bobby Joe Manley's you're referring to specifically then?
That's one of them, but
Were
yes,
there other- were there
again,
others?
I sense this is a continuing course with
They
every
did it to
witness,
James
and we
Manley,
even
too.
talked
They
about
showed
what
him
type of shoes were you
his
wearing? Well,
statement.
here, let me refresh your recollection. We didn't even exhaust that witness's memory if they could tell what they were wearing. And so I'm just bringing it to the attention of the court, so when it happens, I don't have to go through this again at a sidebar.
All right. You don't need to object at a sidebar, though. You can object from the.
I will, and now I don't need to make the argument at the sidebar. The court will know what the objection is.
Anything further before we bring the jury in then?
No, thank you.
Anything further from the
I
state?
don't have to state anything.
All right.
I will
bring
say
the
for
jury
my
in.
family, my oldest son and my boys are supportive, but they don't quite get it. My oldest daughter has no interest in it. My youngest daughter does. And my husband is very supportive. Like he will listen to me. When he came home the other day from work, so it wasn't, it had to be Tuesday because Tuesday was the first days of the witnesses. And he said, "How did your day go?" And I said, "Babe, I'm tired of the whole state of Ohio." And he was like, "What happened?" And then so I was telling him about it, because obviously I was frustrated. And I was like, "I think it's going to be this way for the whole trial and blah, 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 and he's supportive of that. And he said, "Babe, you'll find a way." So he's supportive in that way. I appreciate that. He's, but yeah. So what they're talking about is, okay. So when you have a witness on the stand, okay, and you're asking them about specific things, for example, what they were wearing, what shoes they had on, they have to, you have to have asked them multiple ways, right? Before it is their memory has been sufficiently exhausted. Okay. And then what you do is then you ask, would a photograph help refresh your memory, or would your looking at this statement help refresh your memory, right? And if the witness says yes, then you hand the photograph or the statement
Maybe
over
seated.
to the witness. You don't publish it in front of
Good morning, ladies and
the,
gentlemen. Good to
the
see you all
jury,
here.
right? And you
We
make
just asked
sure,
the jury here,
excuse me, Your Honor, I
this
don't want to
morning,
be
do you have
rude.
any?
Then you ask the witness
Wish to report?
to look at it or to read it silently, right? You definitely don't want to
Is the state ready to call another witness?
Yes, we are.
you don't want to have them read it aloud. Okay.
Daryl Hart.
Now what's going to be tricky is the EMT paramedic on scene. Well, she was a paramedic yesterday. The last witness was a paramedic. Having that's a little bit different because she took notes because of her job. It's very different than having like a a lay person, for lack of a better word, like, the family, Bobby Joe and Mr. Morgan and that that's a different procedure. Um, but she definitely that's that witness, the way that that was done, that's the correct procedure. But with, for example, I definitely recall this. So with and I can't say what happened with Bobby because Bobby Joe, because we didn't see it. But with James, they did hand him his statement, and that procedurally is incorrect. Now, what I will say is, when let's say moving forward, let's say that George Wagner is convicted. Okay, moving forward, that kind of stuff are grounds for appeals. Hey, Southern lady, good to see you. Those procedural errors, if enough of like one or two instances, okay, probably not enough for a judge to say had this not occurred, a reason where his rights were infringed, yada yada yada, right, his or her, right? One or two incidents of it, probably not enough, not sufficient enough, but time and time again, and particularly if the photograph if a photograph is used to refresh a witness's recollection and it happens and it's published, meaning it's shown on the projector or on the whatever. If the jury can see a photograph not admitted into evidence and strictly used to refresh a witness's memory, that's a huge procedural error, and it becomes a problem. So, moving forward. So, hey, Amelia. So, yeah. I've done muted, so I have no idea what's happening. Crap. Let me just rewind a scotch. Oh, come on.
Do you have any difficulties or problems that you wish to report? Any problems at all that the court needs to be aware of? All right, good. Hearing none then. Is the state ready to call another witness?
Yes, we are, Your Honor. We would like to call Daryl Hart to the stand.
Daryl Hart.
Okay. So evidently, this witness, I believe, has opted out. Let me check. Let me check live chat. See what I can find here. Okay, opted out. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to stop sharing this screen. Okay. And I prepared for this. So there is a local reporter. Well, wait, Southern lady, before you go. There was a local reporter, Anjanette Levy, maybe Levy, I don't want to mispronounce her name, who has done an excellent job recapping the testimony that we were not allowed to see. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I would like to present to you guys instead of this, what we'll get a recap of what we missed on day 2 because she was in the courtroom. So we'll watch what she has to say about all of that. Hold on a second. I want to hide that live chat replay. All right. Okie dokie. Let me put it to. So we're going to watch this, and that way we can, see, I was prepared for this. Keep trying me, state of Ohio. All right, here we go. Let me see when she first comes on screen. Put her. Why can't we hear her? Huh. Let me make sure. All right, hold on. Let me just skip forward a little. Let me see what the replay is saying. If this is an audio issue. What the frack?
Gary Roden lit.
All right, hold on. All right, there we go. She's fixing it.
No? Can you guys hear me now?
Okay. There we go. Ooh. I was concerned.
So, hello. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me? Yeah, I'm looking at your comments.
Oh, bless her heart. It says foreign music. Oh boy.
Can you guys hear me?
There we go. Okay. Okay.
Oh, you can hear me now because on my screen it looks like I'm frozen. I'm very confused about what's going on. Okay, guys, so sorry. I went through this whole spiel.
Hold on a second. I'm going to pause.
But anyway,
maybe one of you guys who's local to Ohio and knows how to contact her, maybe suggests that she use StreamYard versus Zoom. I think StreamYard is is more user friendly and it's easier to navigate for people who don't do this all the time. So hope maybe suggest that to her. Okay. All right, here we go.
As you know, unfortunately, people in the state of Ohio, witnesses in cases, and please, I got the comments pulled up now, so let me know if you can still hear me. Witnesses in the state of Ohio can opt out of their testimony, or I'm sorry, they can opt out of being videotaped. They can opt out of being on TV for their testimony. And so we, the media in this case, observing this case and covering it for so long, we noticed in Judge Deering's order that it said witnesses, it was a long media order, witnesses can opt out of being recorded. And he put in parentheses, video and audio. So a lot of us in the media were having covered cases in the state for years and years. I've covered cases in Ohio for 12 years, covered trials. We're like, okay, video and audio, let's clarify this, because the judge said, if you have a problem with this, you have to file a motion. Guess what? We filed a motion because all of us have covered trials in this state for so many years. And typically, when somebody says, I don't want my face on TV, we still get to use the audio. Well, Judge Deering specifically said video and audio in his order. I don't know if he actually wrote the order or if the defense wrote the order, the prosecution, they wrote it together. I have no clue. But he signed it. It's his order. So we filed the motion saying, look, we want an order saying from the court, allowing us, permitting us to air the audio
Hold on just a second,
of the
you
testimony
guys.
should
Let me
witnesses
mute real
opt
quick,
out of
'cause something's
video.
going on in
We've
the
done it
corner and I'm
many, many
confused
times
by
over the
it.
years in many circumstances, in many instances in which a witness objected, and we still get the audio. The judge denied our request. So I had a feeling, Bobby Joe Manley, I knew she'd be the first witness when Angie Canepa said that she was going to go chronologically through this. And so Bobby Joe Manley, I'm going to go through my notes. Here are my notes. I held them up before. Is now 42 years old. So that would have made her about 36 or so when this happened, when the murders happened in April of 2016. And she talked about how Chris Sr. had been married to Dana. They were divorced. I'm reading this to you because we weren't allowed to record Bobby Joe's audio. She talked about how Dana was a nursing home aide. She was a nurse's aide at a nursing home. She thinks she had, maybe once a week contact with her sister and Chris Roden. She would go over to Chris Sr.'s a few times a week and feed his animals. And it was like chickens, a pig. And she would sometimes take her friend Billy Morgan with her. And Billy would do chores for Chris Sr. And he was working off, apparently, buying a vehicle, like some type of truck or putting a motor in a truck or something to that effect. So anyway, they would go over there and do these chores. Chris Sr. would pay them in cash, and they'd fill out like a notebook, just like this one that was in the house on a speaker, she said, in the trailer. And so she would write down their hours in the book, in the log. And Bobby Joe said she was also paying $150 a month rent because she had her trailer on Chris Sr.'s property. So she would work for Chris Sr. for some extra money. So she lived in Kansas.
Okay. I'm a little confused because, oh, hello, Alice. Okay, they changed it. So I was confused because usually when a witness opts out of, good morning. Thank you, Super Mama D. Good morning. Usually when a witness opts out of both audio and video, they show the painting, and they weren't. They were showing George. So I was thinking, well, maybe they changed their mind. Yeah. And we got a little audio. No, we didn't. But I'm keeping an eye. So don't y'all worry. Okay. Let me keep playing her. All right. Here we go.
Camp Creek, she said it would take her 15 to 20 minutes to get from Camp Creek to Chris Senior's, and when she would go over there. So she said she ride around 7:30 or so. She said it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to get from Camp Creek to Union Hill Road, where Chris lived. And she talked about how Gary Roden lived there with Chris Senior sometimes, because Chris and Gary worked at Big Bear Lake together. And she said he typically had to get up early to go to work. So when she got there on April 22nd, 2016, she said she arrived around 7:30, as I mentioned. His truck was there. She said sometimes his truck was there, but a lot of times it wasn't, because he would go to work early in the morning.
I try not to be
So she
critical
said
of
it was really
artists, but that
unusual when
hand
she
is
got there,
disturbing,
because
I'm not gonna
the
lie.
dogs, the indoor dogs, because Chris Senior had both inside and outside dogs. And we knew this from, covering the case, that the dogs were outside. And that was unusual, because these were the inside dogs. And also what she said was unusual was the fact that Chris Senior's front door was locked. She said that it was usually
Oh, hang on a
unlocked.
sec.
So
That is an excellent point. You know what? I guess because we didn't hear Bobby Joe testify, we couldn't put the connections together. Um, but that makes maybe that's why they did ask. Was was she actually renting? Maybe that's what they were talking about. Interesting. Okay, good point. All right, let me keep playing.
So she's 4 feet 11 inches tall. Billy Morgan's with her. She knew there was a key up top on the door frame. And so Billy Morgan pulled the key down and they unlocked the door. She said I wrote these down as direct quotes. Chance and Buster, by the way, are the dogs. But she said there was a bunch of blood on the front room floor. And we saw the crime scene photos. And it is quite visible. I mean, you can tell these are drag marks. I mean, it's a wide swath of blood, going from the front of the room to toward the back. And she said, Bobby Joe, after saying, there was a bunch of blood on the front room floor, she said they were drugged through the kitchen and back to Chris's room. So she walked back there and found Chris dead. She said, I said on the 911 call, it looked like someone beat the hell out of them. Since she called 911, that 911 call was played through her testimony, because that's how they would have to introduce it. Chris was by his bed on the floor, and she saw Gary by Chris on the floor as well. And there was a comforter over the top of them. She said she got out of the residence, she and Billy.
Okay. See, this is this is an interesting detail. Okay. The comforter. And let me tell you why this is an interesting detail, which I know you guys probably know, but maybe don't. Maybe there's somebody that's listening or going to listen on the replay. So covering a victim with anything, okay, especially inside of a home, that's different. It's different. It's different when you, let's say that there's a victim outside and you cover them. That's different. That's for different reasons, right? But to covering the victim in a home like that is an indication of somebody who knew the victim. It's an act of, depending on what they use, obviously, but it is sort of an act of not really remorse, but more like guilt. You don't want the victims looking at you. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to see what you did. but depending on obviously how the victims are laying, right, or victim. But to cover a victim typically is because you don't want to see what you did, which would indicate a familiarity with the victim, because a stranger, right, um, wouldn't necessarily do that. They wouldn't necessarily feel guilty about what they did. They don't know this person. Do you know what I mean? So that's why it's a different psyche when you have a connection to your victim versus a zero connection. Okay. It's a different level. All right, here we go. It's an interesting detail. I'm glad that I found this.
And she was calling 911 and they kept asking for the address. So she didn't know the address. So she walked to the mailbox to see what it was. She knew it was 40 something or 4 something, but she walked to the mailbox. She said Billy Morgan, her friend, got her mom and dad. He did it on his own. And then she went to Frankie's because she was going to Frankie's to tell him that his father was dead. And she went to the house and the door was locked. And I'll let you know, she says she arrived at 7:30 at Chris's. The 911 call was placed at 7:49 a.m. A lot of the jurors, when the 911 call was played, were kind of looking down. That's in my notes. And Geneva Roden, Chris Sr.'s mother, was crying, as were Chris's sisters, Wilma and Teresa. They were both there. So
Sorry, you guys, let me to cough into the
Emmy
mic.
stayed with her friend Emmy Morgan, stayed with her, she said, and held her. She said when she got to Frankie's and she had knocked on the door, she couldn't get in there. And Brentley, Frankie's 3-year-old son, said, "Who is it?" And she said, "It's Aunt JoJo." She says that Brentley, her 3-year-old nephew, unlocked the door. There was also some discussion about a chain. Like she thought she undid it with her
Where'd you go?
sweatshirt or something, but she said she was told by the police she couldn't have done that. So she went back when she opened the door, and Brentley, she asked Brentley, "Where's your dad?" And he said he's in the bedroom. She went back to the bedroom and she found Frankie and Hannah in the bed. And Frankie was I can tell you, he was positioned kind of like if you were laying in a bed, and his face was kind of over this way and one of his arms was over his head. Hannah Hazel was kind of stomach down, sort of on her side, but laying on her stomach, and her breast was exposed. And
Hold on, I'm going to pause it
Ruger,
here.
Frankie and Hannah.
See, now during the opening statements, this was mentioned, right? And I'm not even going to because it was me. I missed the part where the prosecutor talks about Hannah May, but I definitely remember the prosecutor talking about Hannah Gilly, which I guess is Hannah Hazel. I didn't know that, which I should have. I saw her grave. Hold on just a second. Let me take a drink. This is interesting to me, and I don't want to be morbid. I'm trying to be as delicate as I can be. But isn't it interesting, I suppose, for lack of a better word, quite honestly, that it was evident from photographs and then also from the people who were witnesses who actually saw their bodies that both Hannahs were in the middle of breastfeeding. I find that I'm really trying to be delicate, you guys. I'm not exactly sure how to put this, but let me put it this way. What are the odds, do you guys suppose, of that? That was something that was actually happening? Do you know what I mean? It almost... It almost seems like it was staged. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to keep going because while I think about how to put this in better, where I'm not just tripping over my words. Sorry, you guys.
Hannah Hazel's 6-month-old son was in between them, and he was covered in blood. And Bobby Joe said that that Hannah Hazel had been breastfeeding Ruger because her breast was kind of hanging out of her shirt, and the baby was in between them. So she said that Ruger was actually on his hands and knees in the blood in the bed. Imagine that. And she said he was covered in...
I think I think, Corky, it's a distinct possibility. I don't even think that it was done in a way... Okay, how can I put this? I think it was done not so the babies actually could feed, but as a final insult to the family. Now, no, Amelia, Frankie and Hannah Hazel's child was 5 months old, and Hannah May Roden's daughter was 3 days old. So not a newborn, but definitely still a young baby. Yes, yes. I mean, yes, Lorianne, they 100% had a plan. They worked the plan, and there was going to be no deviation from the plan. However, honestly, this specific element found at 2 different scenes, to me, I don't know, there is something that just brings as like a final insult to that family. Do you know what I mean? It's such a... First of all, the duality of the scene, okay? You have at Frankie and Hannah Hazel's in their bedroom, right? First of all, a bedroom is where your home is supposed to be where you're safe and you feel relaxed. Your bedroom is where you take that to the next level, right? That is where you sleep, and everybody knows that's one of your most vulnerable times, is sleeping, right? So to have the dichotomy of it being in the bedroom, they're both in the bed, and their child is in between them would be bad enough, right? That would be bad enough. But to have it to have the child also be breastfeeding is like an extra added insult. I don't know. All right, so let's keep going.
in blood. She said they weren't breathing, and she says that she got the babies and got out. I had that in quote marks. Police arrived pretty soon after, she said. She stayed at Frankie's and outside, of course. And the police arrived and they put Ruger in a squad car. She called Chelsea. Chelsea was the mother of Brentley, to come get Brentley. Leonard Manley was outside with her. Leonard is the father of Dana and the father of George Manley and, of course, Bobby Joe. She said, they put me in the police car to ID Dana, but James had done it already. She then gave a statement at the sheriff's office, and she said they took her shoes and her pants. Obviously, the shoes would be important because there were shoe impressions left at the scenes.
I'm just going to pause it here for a second. So I know we all want to hear the actual testimony and we all want to hear the facts. But I have to tell you that if I don't pause every so often and make commentary on what she's reading, then it technically is not fair use. And fair use is subjective anyway. And so I'm trying to follow the YouTube terms of service as best I can to avoid getting a copyright strike. So I do have to comment every so often.
I'm kind of looking through my notes. I'm confused as to where I left off now. Switch from page. On my next page, like going over this, she was, asked about the front of Chris's trailer and how the key was above the door frame or on the door frame. Animals were kept in the barn. The chickens were kept in coops. She took care of the animals at Frankie's place, is what she said. And the front room of Chris's place had blood on the floor. She said that's, and this is in quotations, this is what I wrote down, that's where someone had drug Chris or Gary through the trailers. Now, it's at this point in the testimony, George Wagner, he's sitting literally kind of in front of me.
Morning, nonstop mom.
And, in front of where I was sitting.
Oh, okay,
he
Lori,
appeared
I
to kind of
just
look down, and
on,
at some points he kind of looked over at the prosecution table.
No, I know. I just wanted to, because you're new, babe, and I didn't take it like you meant any harm or anything. I do, and I appreciate you being here. I just wanted to explain to anybody who's, new and or listening but not commenting, because that happens too, what I have to do because I don't want to make it seem like I'm just reading into all of this. You know what I'm saying? But I have to comment because otherwise, obviously. Okay, let's keep going. Because I'm going to skip back just a second because I want you guys to hear what she says that George was doing. Okay, here we go. Because this is the best we're going to get, I think, for some of this testimony.
Kind of in front of me, and in front of where I was sitting. He appeared to kind of look down, and at some points he kind of looked over at the prosecution table. He was either looking at the prosecutor because she was standing and questioning witnesses, or looking at the jury. So it's kind of hard to tell, but I wrote down in my notes that he was looking over at the prosecutor. There are these crime scene photos put up showing Chris and Gary under the comforter, and members of the Roden family, Geneva, Wilma, Teresa, they were distraught and they were hugging each other and they were crying. Bobby Joe said she did not move or touch their bodies. And there was I felt like there were questions about this journal, the notebook where Bobby Joe would write down the chores that she did and the hours, or, however much money she was supposed to be paid. And there was a lot of kind of focus on that. And when I say there was a focus, I just feel like it came up more than once today with both Billy Morgan and Bobby Joe. When they showed crime scene photos of
yes, Amelia,
Frankie
so sad.
and Hannah Hazel, One of the Roden family members was very upset and left the courtroom. And others were sobbing because they saw the photos. I mean, can you imagine being
No,
Geneva Roden and looking over and seeing
no, I can't imagine.
your grandson and his fiance dead? I mean, a graphic crime scene photo of them in bed, covered in blood. I mean,
Okay. This is an excellent question. The answer to that is I don't know. And I'm very curious about how the state plans to do this. Okay? Because I'm wondering how, if they're going to have Angela and Jake testify back to back, meaning one right after the other, or if they will split them up and do it at different points in the trial. And obviously, yes, I am very, very interested to know if they will opt out, if they're even given that option to opt out, which I, this is this is unfamiliar territory for me. So now I'm going to have to, I'm put that on my list of things to look up to see if they are allowed to even opt out, or if it was written into their plea deal. I don't know the legalities of that. If they're, I don't know. So I'm very interested in that. And the other thing that I'm really interested in is the witness that is going to potentially put George Wagner IV in the tennis shoes that match the receipt and the shoe imprints, because that that is going to be crucial to tying George Wagner IV to the crime scene without relying on the jury believing Angela and Jake Wagner. See, that's important here. I feel that the key to really, and obviously it's a jury, you never can tell, but the key to really solidifying a conviction is going to be some sort of physical evidence tying George Wagner IV to one or all. One is all would be optimal, right? All would be the best, would be best case scenario, but one would be fine too. All it takes is one. So, as it would be really hard to say that like he was at one crime scene but then dipped. You know what I mean? That's where the common sense in the jury instructions comes in. That he would not be that would be far-fetched. He didn't come independently in a vehicle, and he didn't leave independently. You know what I'm saying? Because we all know what George's defense is. So I'm very, very curious what that evidence is going to be. And okay, here we go.
Ruger apparently had blood head to toe, and they showed photos of that.
I can't imagine seeing those photos either. That
Bobby
would be
Jo said when she wrote her statement at the police department, she was still upset. She provided DNA swabs. Now we move on to the cross-examination. She said she'd been helping Chris with the animals for a long time, and that he never talked to her about cockfighting. Because remember, we heard these were cockfighting roosters or whatever, cockfighting chickens that were found on his property. We heard that back in 2016. She said the dogs had a collar so they wouldn't run off. and that the barn, there was a barn that Chris Sr. was building, and it was relatively new. She said that she had seen Jake Wagner at the property a few times. And these are all things that were elicited under cross-examination. She said she did not know Chris had a marijuana grow operation, and that she did not water his plants, which I find odd because I thought, we had kind of been told that back in 2016. But she's saying she didn't know about the marijuana grow operation and that she did not water his plants. She said she didn't know that Chris was in the marijuana business and that he often worked from daylight to dark. He worked at Big Bear Lake. He apparently built decks, did some other things. At that time, Gary was living with him, and there was discussion about a large safe. Chris Sr. and Gary were found kind of in front of this large safe. And when I say large safe, I mean, it was huge. I mean, it looked like it took up much of the wall. It was a black safe in Chris
Wow.
Sr.'s bedroom. But apparently there was another safe in the closet of Chris's bedroom that was smaller. That safe was gone, according to testimony that came out today. So the safe that was smaller in the closet was not there when the crime scene photos were taken. Obviously, the big safe was still there.
Oh, wonder what.
She talked about how Chris was a very generous man. This was elicited on
Okay,
cross-examination, and that he handed cash out to people if they would pay him back. So if people were hard up for money, he would give them the money and expect to be paid back. She said that Chris worked for Robin Waddell. That's a name you'll probably hear during the trial at Big Bear Lake.
Okay, hold on. I want to pause this real quick. So, thanks to the Facebook group, and I will, when I go back inside, I'll get the link for you guys to the Facebook group that I've been following. What I have seen is a little bit of debate about this grow operation, and what I'm seeing is that there's the debate is over just how significant this grow operation actually is. That there are some people who believe, based on evidence, which would be the size of the plants at this time, that they were juvenile plants, as it were, and so really their value would be relatively low, if there was value in them at all, honestly, due to the time of year it was, and and that they regarded it as more of a small operation rather than this large scale situation, right? Um, because the electric bill, in order to maintain a significant grow operation, would be quite high, especially given Ohio and Ohio's weather. Like, growing marijuana is not easy, and it does. They have to be in a consistent, warm, moist environment. Marijuana is like a high, it's a high maintenance plant. Okay, so it takes a bit, and it's Ohio is freaking cold. So I wanted to just point that out, and when I go back in, I'll drop the link for the Facebook group that I read this in, because that group chock full of really valuable information. Okay.
And she was asked if she knew Vance Walls, and she said she didn't know him. She said she was friends with Kenneth Roden, and then John Patrick Parker, George Wagner's attorneys, asked her whether they had ever been more than friends, and she said no comment. And when he asked that question, some of the Roden family members, or one of them, said, "What does that matter? Or how is that any of your business?" or something like that. Under cross-examination, she was also asked about how she thought she unlocked the chain at Frankie's house from the outside. You know how sometimes a door has a chain on it. But she thought she unlocked the chain from the outside. She was also asked about a big 4th of July party, or this 4th of July party that Chris Sr. would throw apparently every year with fireworks. She said she didn't know if Chris owned other properties. Again, as I mentioned, the safes, that's next to my note. The 2 safes were in the bedroom. The large one was there, obviously. The other one was not there. She said she can't remember whether she had seen Billy Wagner at Chris's. Then she said that her grandson was named after Kenneth and Chris, both of them. She said that, and then we went back to the chain on the door again, and she said she thought she took the chain off of the door using her sweatshirt.
How would she do
Brentley
that,
let her
though?
in, so she didn't know if Brentley somehow got up on the couch to undo the chain, but
Okay.
it sounded like she was telling the police she used her sweatshirt to undo the chain, but they apparently told her she couldn't have done that.
No, she couldn't have done
And I
that.
remember this, this is an aside, just from covering this. I remember Leonard Manley back in 2017 telling me that he felt like the cops were harassing Bobby Joe, that they felt like she wasn't being honest with them, and that they kept interviewing her and giving her.
Okay, I want to just pause real quick here because yes, I'm back inside. I'm about to get you guys the name of that group, but I have to agree with this reporter's assessment here because again, in the Facebook group, there was a lot of talk about this the way that Bobby Joe was treated. Okay, there's a witness on the stand now. So I'm going to stop sharing this. We're going to come back and I'm going to go over to the witness that is testifying now, but I'm going to rewind it so we can watch it as it is happening. Okay. I knew this would happen. I had agreed to go on another channel tonight, go on their live. And I remember emailing the creator and saying, I'm covering this trial, but so far a ton of the witnesses have like opted out. And I don't know what's on tap for tomorrow, but watch. Now that I've agreed to go on your channel, there will be witnesses that testify. And sure enough, as luck would have it, okay, so we're going to go over here. Let me get to StreamYard. Let me share my screen. Your girl is on it today, okay? Like I came prepared. I was like, we're not going to sit around and wait for the court. I'm going to have a backup plan. Yes. Are y'all ready? I got closed captions on. Okay, here we go. Let me add it to the stream. All right. Yeah, I've got you guys on the computer and I've got the Law and Crime Network on my phone and I'm like watching it. So I'm on it today. And I'm not going to fuss.
Before sitting down, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand.
And rewind
You solemnly
it
swear or
while they
affirm that
call
the
his name,
testimony you're
because
about to
once
give
they
will be the
start
truth, the
questioning
whole
him, they're
truth,
going to
and
ask
nothing
his
but
name.
the truth that you shall answer unto God.
Yes, Your Honor.
You can see
I know, Super Mama D. I'm in
and
fuego.
state may examine.
Okay. That's right, sleuths.
Good morning, how are you? Okay. I'm going to ask you to say your name, and I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up. I have a problem keeping my voice too low, and I know you do too. So as much as you can, and as close as you can get to the microphone, that helps so that you don't necessarily have to speak loudly. It will amplify your voice, okay? So go ahead and tell us your name,
But I don't
please.
think
Donald Stone,
Ohio is considered the South.
And Donald, how old are you?
50.
Okay. Are you
There you
married?
go. Yes, Super
Yes.
Mama D.
And do you and your wife live together?
Yes.
Do you have children?
I have 4 children from another lady.
Okay. Do you have grandchildren?
Yes.
Cripes. Did I just miss it? Did I miss where he stated his name? Hold on.
From another lady.
Married?
Yes.
Okay. So that you don't necessarily have to. I have a problem keeping my voice too low, and I know you do too. So as much as you can, and as close as you can get to the microphone, that helps so that you
Oh,
don't
they got a
necessarily
new
have to
witness
speak
chair.
loudly.
That's nice.
It will amplify your voice. Okay. So go ahead and tell us your name, please.
Donald Stone,
Okay.
Donald Stone.
And Donald, how old are you?
50.
Okay. Are you married?
Yes.
And do you and your wife live together?
Yes.
Do you have children?
I have 4 children from another lady.
Okay. Do you have grandchildren?
Yes.
Are you currently working?
No.
Okay. Did you previously work?
Yes.
Okay. And what kinds of things did you do?
I did heating and cooling for Mark Blakeman.
Heating and cooling for whom?
Mark Blakeman,
Okay. And how long did you do that for?
12 years.
Okay. And was that the last job that you had?
Yeah.
Okay. And before we go any further, you have gloves on your hands.
Yes.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I have a skin condition.
Okay. All right.
Oh my goodness. Why is this doing this? Hold on. Let me do it.
Mr. Stone, can you
Let me
tell
hide this. Let
us,
me create a better banner.
without giving us the address, where approximately do you live?
Live at Piketon.
Okay. And can you tell me, do you know Kenneth Roden?
Yes, I do.
And how do you know Kenneth Roden?
He's my cousin.
And how are you
There we go.
related? I mean, which one of, is it your mother or father or?
His mother and my father was brothers and sisters.
His mother and your father
Yes.
are siblings? Okay.
Hold on. I'm
Some
piecing it
cousins are
together,
close,
guys.
Some aren't. Would you consider yourself to have been close to Kenneth?
Real close.
Okay. And tell us about that.
Sleuths, you're
Just,
correct.
you know, anytime that I was down and out, the man was there to help me.
How long would you say that you had a close relationship with him?
Ah, thank you,
Childhood or
Corky S.
Later in life or,
From childhood.
okay. And how often would you say you saw each other growing up?
Mm, it's just, you know, here and there, you know.
Was there ever a time where you guys lived on the same road also?
It's actually, we didn't live on the same road. We just, you know, we were close at one time.
Okay. Did you ever, you lived physically close to him?
Yes.
Okay. And where was that?
I lived on Meadow Run and he lived on Miller's Lane.
Okay. He lived on Miller's Lane and you lived where?
On Meadow Run,
Okay. And those are close to one another?
yes.
Okay. And do you recall approximately how long that was for?
He does look
Mm,
similar to James,
I'd
but they have
say a
two
good 10
different last
years.
names, so I'll find out.
And was he married at the time?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know who he was married to?
Stacy Rigsby.
Okay. And did they have children?
Yes.
And do you know the names of those children?
Yes.
And what is that?
Tajana, Luke, and Kendra.
And at some point, did Kenneth move away from that location?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know why he moved away?
No.
Okay. Did his wife and children remain at that location? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us what kinds of things would you and Kenneth do together?
It just, like if he needed something worked on or whatever, we did that together. Cars.
Would you guys go to auctions together?
Yes.
And buy
Yeah.
cars
Yeah.
and then work on them?
Yeah.
Okay. Fix them up and sell them, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Amelia. I had to make it, I had to adjust it because I had typoed the word now, but now we're on,
And did you
now we're
know
good.
that he was living out on Left Fork Road?
Not at the time, no.
Had you ever been out to his house before?
One time.
One time?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall what that was for?
I was working on one of his cars.
Okay. Did you go inside the residence at that time?
No.
Do you recall in relation to the day that you, that these events happened, do you recall how long prior to that had you been at his house?
It was it was probably, I don't know, a few weeks or so
Okay.
before we went to the auction.
Okay. So you had gone to an auction?
Yes.
I want y'all to know that I was obvious,
a few weeks
I'm
prior?
ahead
Yes.
on my phone, and they are going to show pictures
And did you buy anything at the auction that time?
No.
to this
Did
witness,
he buy anything?
and he is going to
He
cry,
bought
so I
the-
want you guys to be prepared for that,
Buy the
okay?
vehicle?
Because
Yes.
it is
And
heartbreaking.
that's the one that you went over to work on?
No, I worked on a car before the auction.
Okay, all right.
I'm trying
Okay,
not
so
to be a
I'm
spoiler
mixing this
alert,
up.
you know, I
You
should,
previously
but
went
I
over there to
want you
work on a
guys to know
car
what's
that
going
has
on,
nothing to
so
do with
if
the
you
car
need to
that
leave, you
Kenneth
can.
bought at the auction a few weeks
No,
prior?
no.
Okay, that's just the last time that you saw him was at the auction?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any recollection of what kind of car he bought at the auction that day?
No, I don't remember.
Can you tell us, Mr. Stone, at the time, back in April of 2016, were you still working at that time for the heating and cooling company?
Mhm. I believe I was.
Okay. And can you tell us, well,
I might
how
might
did
have
you
missed that,
learn
Mo.
that something had happened up on Union Hill Road?
Well, I was at a HUD appointment that morning, and I had talked to a gentleman while I was there, and he asked me if I heard what happened on Union Hill. And then after my HUD appointment, I went back home, and that's when I tried making phone calls.
So you were at a HUD appointment, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, and somebody asked you, somebody that worked there or another
Yes.
person? Somebody that worked there, okay. And You said then once you were back home, you made some phone calls. Who did
Yes.
you call? Do you recall?
Well, I tried to call Kenneth's phone,
Okay.
and then I tried to call Luke's phone, no answer. Luke Raden.
Technically, some of these questions are leading, and I'm
And
shocked there's
then
not been an objection. I just want to put
Once
that
I
out
got
there.
word that there was some people meeting at a church, we had went to the church.
Oh,
And
you
where
can't
was
be
the
relying
church?
on the closed
Union Hill.
caption, Mo.
Okay. Just kind of across 32 from
Yeah.
where the family lived.
Yes,
They don't get it
And
100%,
did you
babe.
know Chris wrote it as well?
yes,
Okay. And all of the rest of the siblings,
yes,
you knew them as well. You were just closer to Kenneth because of living near him and such?
yes.
Okay. Had you ever been up to Chris Roden's residence on Union Hill Road?
Just one time, I had to work on a truck for Kenneth.
Okay. And tell me about that. Was Kenneth living there at that time?
No, he wasn't living on Union Hill, no.
Okay. But he had a truck up there
Yes,
that he wanted you to work on?
yes.
Okay.
I'll have
And
to
when
go
you
back,
worked on
Mo,
that,
and
where on the property did you work?
hit up the
It was
Google
at
A's
Chris Senior,
Seniors.
yes.
to be able to verify, because you can't be trusting YouTube's closed
Did you know
captioning. They be getting
Frankie
shit
and-
wrong all
and
the
Tina
time.
May and little Chris as well?
Yes,
So you went to the church on Union Hill Road, and who all was there?
it's just, there was a lot of people there, the family. I mean, there was a lot of people there.
Okay.
If you
If you
haven't
had to
already,
guess
please thumbs up the
approximately
stream. I would
how
appreciate
many?
it. Share it out if you want to.
150 people.
150?
Yes, Mo, that's how I feel. Bless him.
And I imagine there was a lot of information, a lot of talking going on.
Yes,
Okay. And a lot of consulting.
Bless his little
Did
heart.
at what point did you learn how many had been killed on Union Hill Road?
actually, I hadn't known at the time how many there were for sure.
Okay. Some mixed information?
Yes,
Okay. Was there a point, you indicated that you tried to call Kenneth that one time, and that was from your home after the HUD appointment?
yes,
Okay. Did you personally ever try to call Kenneth
Yeah.
after that?
yes. Well, it was, when I tried to make the phone calls, I did try to call him once.
Okay. And while you were at the church, did there become some concerns about Kenneth not responding to phone calls?
Yeah,
Okay. And can you tell us, did you decide to go to Kenneth's at some point?
yeah. Well, we was at the church and Luke mentioned that he wanted to go to his dad's place. And he asked me if I wanted to go and we went.
Okay. Were you aware as to whether he also had tried to call his father?
No, I wasn't aware.
Okay. And so you and Luke went. Did anybody else go with
Yeah,
you?
yes.
Who else went?
Sean Watson.
Okay. And who's Sean?
Sean is my cousin also.
Okay. Do you remember what vehicle you took or who drove?
We took my stepdaughter's car.
Okay.
Sean Watson drove.
Okay.
This break is especially heartbreaking because
Do you know where
it's
Kenneth
very
was
rare
working at
you
the
hear
time?
about so much of
He was
this
working in
extended
Columbus.
family. You know what I mean? Anymore now these days?
Do you know how long he had been working there?
No,
Okay. And you got to, did you go to
Right,
Kenneth
Tony?
and
I didn't even know Florida was
What did
considered
you
the
do when
South
you got
either
there?
for the longest time
We
till I
got
moved
there,
here.
we got out of the car. We walked up to the door, me and Luke. And once we got to the door, I told him, I said, "This is your dad's place. You need to go in first." And he went in first and I followed him.
Okay. And can you tell us, first of all, where was Sean at this time?
Sean was down by the car.
Okay. So he did not walk up to the property with you or enter the
no.
residence? Where did you guys park?
We parked behind the truck, Kenny's truck.
Okay. And you know Kenny's truck?
Yes.
Okay.
My favorite accent will always
When you
be a
walked up
Texas
to the
accent.
residence,
Sorry,
did
y'all.
you notice, was the door unlocked?
Yes.
Okay.
I will forever be a Texan.
So you walked into the residence together and you said Luke was there first, but then you, and then what happened?
And then we walked in. We walked into supposedly the living room. And I noticed to the right, I didn't see him in there nowhere. So I seen a stairway to the right. And I walked up the stairway. And that's where I found him up there in his bed.
And when you say you found him, who did you find?
I found Kenny.
Can you tell us what condition you found him in?
He had blood all over his eyes.
Oh, bless his heart, y'all.
And where was he located?
In his bed.
Okay. Did you believe him to be dead or alive at that time?
He was dead.
It's hard to see anyone cry, but it is, for me anyway, particularly difficult to see men cry. My eyes are a little watery.
Was it just you that walked up those stairs and saw Kenneth?
Yes.
Okay. When you saw him, first of all, did you touch him at all?
No.
Okay, so you did not touch the bed at all or move anything?
No.
Okay. What did you do then?
We went straight back out the door.
Okay. And then what did you do?
We, when we was out on the porch, Luke asked me if I could help him get some of his, some things, and then we walked out to the building. He wanted us to walk out to the building. He thought maybe somebody might have been in the building.
Okay. And where was the building located?
Located outside the camper, beside the camper.
Okay. And did you ever enter that building yourself?
Just opened the door.
Okay. And was there anybody in there?
No.
Okay. And did you see anything in there in the building itself?
Just marijuana.
Okay. So there was marijuana in that building?
Yes.
Okay. Did you touch or move anything in that building?
No.
Okay. And prior to that moment, did you know that there was marijuana in that building?
No.
Okay. Then what did you do?
After I left the building, we went out and to the end of the driveway and I tried to call 911. I couldn't, so I had to drive up the road to call 911.
Bless their hearts, they couldn't even get reception
So
to call
was it
911,
you
y'all.
personally trying to call 911?
Yes.
Okay. And you said you couldn't. Why couldn't you?
Every time I would try, it would default my call. It would kick my call off.
Okay. So you weren't getting good cell phone service?
No.
Okay. And so you said you went up the road. Were you walking at this point or driving?
We drove.
You drove. Okay.
This is breaking my heart, y'all.
And when you exited when you first went to the end of the driveway, were you driving at that point? Like you'd gotten back in the vehicle?
We got back in the vehicle and backed out of the driveway.
Okay, all right. And how far up the road did you have to go before you could make a call?
A good 1,000, 1,500 feet.
Okay. And then, was it you again that made the phone call?
Yes.
911?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you tell them?
I called them and told them that I'd found Kenneth Roden dead in his home.
I have a
All right.
feeling, y'all, they're going to play the
And then,
911 call, so brace yourself.
Did you stay there and wait for them to come?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Were you there when the police arrived?
Yes.
Did you ever go back into that location?
No.
Into his house?
No.
Or any of the structures?
No.
Hey, Kez Chick, good morning. Thanks for coming, babe. Oh, yeah, I know it's late for you over there.
Yeah. Okay.
Down under.
Mr. Stone, I'm going to have them play the 911 call that you made that day. I just want you to listen to it, and then afterwards I'll ask you if you recognize it, okay?
You know, for the record, I'm gonna play this external hard drive. It's got an exhibit sticker on it. Outside the exhibit sticker says video and audio on it. Inside the hard drive, there are folders. There's a folder marked O, 911 calls to city states exhibit O2.
It's me too, and 5, 6, 7, 8. It's heartbreaking.
Sabrina. 911 call. Conversation recorded on April 22nd, 2016 at 13:26 on channel 1. There's Pike County, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah,
911, can I help you?
yeah, I need a deputy's been out to close to 799 Glenford.
Okay.
It's all this stuff that's on the news. I just found my cousin with a gunshot wound.
Okay. Sir, is he alive?
No.
Okay. You're at 799 Westport?
It's close to 799. I don't know what his address is. You don't have a box.
You don't have a box. Okay.
I'll be standing out by the red waiting on him.
What's your name, sir?
Donald Stone.
Donald Stone?
Donald Stone.
Stone?
Yeah, I'm his cousin.
What's his name?
Kenneth Roden.
Kenneth Roden?
Yeah.
Okay, sir, are you out of the house?
I'm out of the house right now. I just went in, hollering at him and checked the house, and I looked up and he had a gunshot wound.
Okay, sir, we're gonna get deputies out there to you, okay? All right. Good morning.
Just love his whole heart.
End of recording.
Bless his heart. I just can't even imagine this, y'all.
Do you recognize that phone call?
Yes.
And is that the 911 call that you made that afternoon on April 22nd of 2016?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Stone, you indicated on the 911 call that you believed it was a gunshot wound. What made you say that?
It's just There's extremely a lot of blood all over his face.
And you indicated on the 911 call that you hollered at Kenneth when you entered the residence? Okay.
Yes.
While you were waiting, was there an individual that arrived on a four-wheeler looking for things in trees?
Yes.
Okay, did you know that person?
Yes.
Okay, and what was his name?
Brett Hatfield.
Okay. And at the time, did you know what he was looking for?
He's got a skin condition,
No, I do
cement
not.
shoes.
And what did you tell him?
I told him that if he's planning on taking anything from there, to not be doing it because I called 911.
Okay. And you said you stayed there until the police arrived, correct?
Yes.
And once the police arrived, what happened?
And once the police arrived, then they turned around and told me to come with them and put me in the cruiser and handcuffed me.
They handcuffed you
Yes.
and put you in the cruiser? Okay. And did they ultimately take you down to the police station to?
They handcuffed him, y'all.
Yes.
Bless his heart. And look at this fool.
Did they take anybody else to be interviewed?
And they took Luke.
Okay.
No emotion at all. None.
Did they ever take your fingerprints or DNA or anything from you?
No,
that day?
no.
Okay. And did they take any of your clothing or anything else?
No.
Okay. And you indicated you did not touch anything in there.
No.
Is that correct? Donald, when Kenneth Roden lived on Miller's
I just have to
Lane,
pause it
did
for just
you
a
ever
second,
know
y'all,
him
because
to
I got to
grow
comment
marijuana?
on this.
Yes.
Okay.
And where did he grow
Hold on.
marijuana
Oh,
at
cripes.
that location?
I'm back in
Hold
the
on.
field.
Back in the field? Okay. Did you ever know him to have an indoor grow at
No.
that location?
No.
Okay.
Now, I want to say this because I want to be fair. All right. But I know that lawyers will instruct their clients not to show any type of emotion or reaction to any of the witnesses or to any of the testimony. Okay. But it is incredibly difficult as a human being, right, to maintain a still unchanging face and to see another human being cry, particularly a man, right? What I don't I can be completely, I can remove emotion and not show it. Okay. But it would be very difficult for even me to be able to maintain the face that George Wagner IV is maintaining during this testimony. And I have frequently been referred to as Spock in the emotions department. All right, here we go. I just had to comment on that, y'all. I just am blown away. If nothing else, my face would at least soften.
Mr. Stone, I'm going to put up a series of photographs. I'm going to start with just the outside of the camper and stuff. It's going to be displayed on the screen above your head, but it's also going to be displayed right there. So you can look at the pictures that are close to you.
Okay.
And then I'll just ask you questions. State's Exhibit D1. which is 1872. Do you recognize that location?
I would imagine the
Yes.
jurors are
And
having
what
a
do you
difficult
recognize that
time,
as?
Mo, because the family
Kenneth
is sitting in
Reagan's
the front
place.
row,
Okay.
and you can see the mom is upset.
Um,
She's crying. So I imagine they're having a difficult time,
States
honestly.
Exhibit D17. And is that Kenneth's place again?
Yes,
Okay, and do you recognize any of the vehicles in that location?
yes.
And what do you recognize that as?
All three of those are Kenny's trucks.
Okay. And when you pulled into that location, then you would have been just behind those vehicles
Yes,
initially?
yes.
Okay. And then 1896, which is States Exhibit D25. Again, that's just a closer up view there, but is that one of Kenneth's trucks?
Yes,
And in the background there, is that the residence that you entered?
yes.
Um, 1919 D48. It appears there's another camper off to the left there of the residence.
I mean,
Was that
that's an
also on
excellent
Kenneth's
point.
property?
Yes,
Tony. I mean, that is exactly what we're talking about here. If he's guilty, which,
is 1921.
you know, obviously in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. So we're going to put that out there. But
Okay, and what all do you see in that photo?
I see the building.
And is that the building that had the marijuana in it?
Yes,
we're going to talk about that in just a second, Cement Shoes. I'm going to
And-
star your comment so I can remember to come back to it, because they're about to go to recess after his testimony. So.
D86, which is 957. Again, is that the building that had the marijuana in it?
yes.
Okay. Did you notice any cameras at that location?
No, I did not.
Okay. D89, 1960. And does that appear to be a camera on that building?
Yes,
Okay, you did not notice that at the time?
no.
Okay. And then D90, which is 1961. You can probably see it better than the jurors can, but does there appear to be a camera there to the left
Yes,
of the door?
yes.
Okay, and again, you did not notice that on
No,
that day?
no.
Okay. Um, 1999, which is D128. And do you recognize that?
Yes,
And what do you recognize that as?
Kenny's place.
I should D133, which is 2004. Mr. Stone, there appears to be a lock on the porch there. Do you recall seeing that at all at the time?
Yes,
Okay. And was that how it was when you first arrived there?
yes,
Okay. D138, which is 2010. Do you recognize that?
yes.
And what is that?
That's inside the home.
Okay, and that's when you first walk in there,
Yeah.
that front door. D139, 2011. And again, is that the area when you first walk in?
Yes,
Okay. D163, which is 2035. It's so hard to see that. Do you recognize that?
yes.
And what do you recognize that as?
It's Kenny's bed.
And do you remember when you walked into that room, which side of the bed would you have been on?
Absolutely.
foot of it.
Cement shoes. Absolutely.
Showing you what's been marked as D 180, 2052, and should not cover. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes,
And can you tell us what you recognize that as?
it's where Kenny slept.
And is that how you saw Kenneth lying in his bed when you entered that residence?
Yes,
D187, which is 205.
I'll tell you, cement shoes. I didn't appreciate the dog that was last when you missed.
Mr. Stone, can you look at that? I'm sorry.
You could switch it to cans too,
What do you recognize that as?
or clay.
Kenny.
Oh, bless
And is
his
that
heart. I
how you saw
can't
him
take
on
it,
that
y'all.
day?
Yes,
Oh my gosh, bless his little heart. I
And you
can't.
indicated that he had, does that match your recollection of the blood that you saw him?
yes.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh gosh, you guys.
Did you get any closer than the foot of the bed?
No,
Okay. the items that were there, if you go back sorry, D185, I'm gonna show the picture of the foot of the bed. There appears to be money, coins, keys, and a pair of pants there. Again, is that as you found it that day?
Yes.
Okay, and you did not touch any of those items?
No.
Okay. Put that down. And Mr. Stone, you exited that residence basically as soon as you saw?
Yes.
Okay, and Luke exited along with you?
Yes.
I mean, just this whole family, y'all. And there he sits. Can't even look.
Mr. Stone, I'm sorry. I'm gonna ask you to step down if you don't mind. I'm gonna show this to the jury. We're gonna do two parts so that those people can see it. You stand over here, those. This is D as in dog, 2826. Do you recognize this location? Okay, and what is this location? Okay. And again, there are his vehicles. Can you tell us approximately where he would have been parked when you first got there? Okay, behind the middle truck, so like in this area here? Okay. And then once you went to the end of the driveway to call, you said then you went. Do you remember which direction you went? Okay, so you back there and then went on the driveway here, okay. And then when you were waiting for the police, where did you? Okay. At the end, okay, all right. Come back there, sorry. So again, you can show them where you were parked when you first got there. Okay. And then when you exited, which direction did you go? Okay. And then where did you wait?
This is perfect.
Mr. Stone? Was there a dog at Kenneth's house?
Yes.
And did you know the dog's name?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. And was the dog normally inside or outside when you had been there prior? Do you recall?
When I was there prior,
Yeah,
he was outside.
okay. And what about on this day?
He's inside.
And so when you entered the residence, he was inside?
Yes.
Okay.
Tony put it perfectly.
And do you remember
Absolutely.
where?
Right by the door.
Right by the door?
Yes.
Had he barked at all or anything?
Nothing.
Does feel like what we've heard so far about the Wagners, that
And did he
they
go outside
sort of
then?
look down on this
Yes.
family
Residence?
prior to any of this.
And did you ever
Happening.
know the
You know what I mean?
Wagners?
No.
And would you describe the Rodens as a
Come on, Bubs,
close-knit
let's go.
family?
Yes.
Okay. And what makes you say that?
It's just, you know,
Oh, I thought I
their,
pushed mute
their
before I
mother
said that.
fed me
Sorry, y'all.
when I was young, and they're just helpful people. You'd help anyone.
Just more of an example of the professionalism y'all
And
get
do they
here at the
also look
ward.
out for one another?
Yes, they did.
Absolutely, Mo. Absolutely. 100%. Because they didn't really know much of what was going on. Especially the fact that he went and checked on that building because he thought somebody might be in it. Do you know what I mean? That's just shows his character.
And would you say that they would protect each other
Yes.
if something happened to one of them?
Oh, yes. Yes.
I have another question, Your Honor.
The defense may cross-examine.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Stone, I understand these are some tough questions. Do you need a minute to collect yourself, or are you okay to go forward?
I'm good.
Hey, Henry Moody, welcome.
I want to go over the answers that you had just given the prosecutor. I just need some more detail on that, okay? And when I ask you questions, I'll need you to answer out loud, all right?
Okay.
All right, thank you. My understanding is you were at the church on Union Hill Road and you left there to go to Kenneth's, is that right?
Yes.
It is
And who
very
went
sad.
with you?
Luke and Sean Watson.
And Sean Watson?
Yes.
And you guys all rode in one vehicle?
Yes.
What kind of vehicle is that?
It's a little yellow car. I don't know what the name of it was.
A car.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And so there's an exhibit here that you were shown on a picture, and I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit D286. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. And so, if I hold this here, and all of the jurors and this, thank you. All right, Mr. Stone, do you recognize this exhibit that I have, or that has been marked as D286?
Yes.
And what is this?
It's Kenneth's residence.
Okay. Are you able to point to actually where he lived? Because I see three different structures there. All right, so you're pointing to the middle one, and you would agree with me that this is a driveway going up to his camper, right?
Yes.
And when you guys drove there in that car, can you tell me where you parked? And you can point at that. and get
Behind
up
it.
if you need to.
Behind the black truck.
Okay, so I see, do you mind to get up and point for me? Okay, so you can go ahead and sit down. I'm gonna point where you did, because I think you may have blocked some jurors. So right here, see where I'm pointing?
Yes.
That's a truck, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and you parked behind that truck.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely,
Can you tell me-
Sleuths.
how far is the distance from where you parked, or where the vehicle in which you rode in, where it parked, and the front door of that camper?
I have no idea.
Okay.
What?
You couldn't even approximate in feet,
Mm,
but nevertheless, that car was parked here, and you would agree with me that the front door of that camper would be right there, is that
Yep.
right?
approximately 100 feet.
About 100 foot, okay. All right, thank you. Now, you were questioned by some BCI agents about this, is this right?
Yes,
In fact, you went down to the Pike County Sheriff's Department to answer those questions.
yes,
And at some point in that questioning, you were asked whether or not you had taken anything from Ken's residence.
yes,
And you didn't, right?
right,
And you told them you didn't need to because Ken was well off, is that right?
yes,
And he would give you money anytime you needed it.
yes,
All right. And I also, during that questioning, on the day of your discovery of Ken, you were questioned about the marijuana, is that right?
yes,
And you had told that the BCI agent that you knew of Ken to traffic in marijuana, is that right?
yes.
All right. Now, in regard to that camper again, how many people went to that front door of that camper?
Just me and Luke Roden.
Okay. And so tell me again, who was first to enter?
Luke,
All right. And you followed in behind him, is that right?
yes,
Okay. So both of you were there inside that camper?
yes,
And you just stayed at the foot of the bed, is that right?
yes.
All right. Hold on one moment for me.
You're allowed to lead on cross smoke.
No further questions.
Any redirect of the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right,
I'm
you may
sorry.
step down. You may step down. We're going to take a 15-minute recess until 11 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, while you're in recess, do not discuss this case with anyone.
Okay.
Do not permit this case to be discussed with you or in your presence. Do not form or express an opinion concerning the case. Do no research concerning the case, either as to the facts or as to the law. Do not listen to, read, or view any reports or accounts of the case at all, and have no contact with any participants in the trial, including counsel, parties, and witnesses. In 15 minutes, which will make it 11 o'clock, assemble at the jury's room downstairs, and you'll be brought up by court personnel. Anything further from either counsel?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, then we are in adjournment until 11.
Hold on a second, y'all. I'm Googling something because I saw this comment in the long crime chat and I want to um, hmm. What did she say? Hold on a second. So hold on a second. Give me just a second, y'all. So there was somebody in the law and crime chat that said that Jake and Angela have opted out of testifying, meaning they are not going to agree to be videoed or audio. And so they're, of course, asking this person in the chat, how do you know? And she says, I read the motion filed on September 6th that the judge sent out, and it said they opted. It was in my local news this morning here in Ohio. So, of course, your girl out here trying to Google that, because certainly you would think that that would be something that's discussed. So I am looking for you guys to find out. So I'm looking. And quite honestly, I can't find anything about that. Um, I would think if that were the case. See, this is what I find interesting about this. Okay. If there is an obvious that motion does exist. Okay. Um, so that part of the comment is true. Okay. But what I'm having difficulty with is it seems to me that if it were public knowledge who was opting in and versus who is opting out and at what level they're opting in or out, right? Okay. Law and crime would be better prepared when the witnesses are called. Do you know what I mean? Seems like it's been a bit of a surprise to everybody, and I feel like, quite frankly, there would be some type of headline um, about that. Now, what I will say is this. This is from, let me look at this, Local News 5, all right, in Ohio. So it was updated on September 14th, 2022 at 2:17 Eastern Time, PM. Okay. Pike County, Ohio. In response to a motion filed ahead of the murder trial of George Wagner IV, Pike County Common Pleas Judge Randy Deering granted witnesses, including Jake and Angela Wagner, the ability to opt out of being videotaped or recorded during testimony. The full motion is attached below. There's the motion. It was granted. Keeping reading. So from this article, yes, we watched it. So from this article, it would appear that, yes, they do have the option, which we all knew, right? But I can't see anything where, just a sec, where that's been stated.
Does council have anything before we bring the jury up?
No, Your Honor.
Judge, I just want to put on the record that the last witness was crying and very emotional on identifying photographs of the victim, even though we offered to stipulate to it,
I think he was crying before he identified photographs.
but especially so when he saw the
Well,
photographs.
I don't necessarily find this especially so.
Thank you, Judge.
Let's bring the jury up.
Yes, Southern Lady, we all were shook. Well, I can tell you that according to that article that I just read, they're not going to be testifying this week. I'm sure that the attorneys, both sides, and the judge know who all has opted in, opted out, etc., with at what level, yada yada yada, right? But as far as the public knowing that, I don't believe it, quite frankly. What do you think, Southern Lady? There was somebody in the law and crime chat who said that Angela and Jake Wagner have opted out and that it was on their local news this morning. And I honestly, I think that this person might have misheard, and that what was actually talked about or discussed on the news this morning in Ohio was the fact that they have the option, not that they've actually done it, because I feel like we would know that. There'd be more of a fuss. You know what I mean? They have. Well, where can I find that, babe? Oh, this is very upsetting. Hold on. Oh, I'm very upset.
Everyone may be seated.
Opted out completely, Southern
Is the
lady.
state ready to call its next witness?
Yes, Your Honor, the state would call Luke Roden to the stand, please.
Luke Roden, Jason.
Hold on. I'm going to try Googling a different way.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer unto God? You may be seated there. And I believe that we can move that monitor over your head. And the state may examine.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm okay.
Okay. You're already doing what I'm going to ask you to do, which is to make sure you're pretty close to that microphone. That helps everybody be able to hear when you're speaking today, okay?
Okay.
Can you please state your name and spell your last name?
I can't believe I mean,
Luke
I cannot
Roden,
believe they opted out.
RHODEN,
Okay. And how old are you?
30,
Okay. And where do you live?
70 Miller's Lane,
Okay. And do you live there with somebody or by yourself?
by myself.
And is that location where you grew up?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And
Oh,
can
sorry, you
tell
guys.
us,
I'm trying to find this so
are
I
you
can.
currently working?
No.
Sorry. Sorry, y'all. I'll fix it. Give me just a second.
And can you tell us who is Kenneth Roden?
My father.
And how long were your parents married for?
Roughly 15 to 16 years.
Okay. Do you recall approximately how old you were when they got a divorce?
I want to say around 14 or 15 years old.
Do you have siblings?
Yes, I have a sister, Tajana, a sister, Kendra, and a brother is deceased.
And what happened to your brother?
Died of cancer.
There we go. That's fixed.
And how do you come in the lineup there of your siblings? Who's the oldest? Who's the youngest?
My sister, Tajana, my brother, Austin, then me, then Kendra.
Okay. How old was your brother when he passed?
He was 7.
And after your parents divorced.
Thanks for the
um,
reminder. And
where
5,
did you
6, 7,
live
8.
At that time,
Still living with my mother at the time,
okay? And who is your mother?
Stacy.
Okay. And so you and the other children were still living at that location?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us, did your father and your mother maintain a good relationship after they divorced?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Southern lady,
Would
when
you say
you-
that your father was involved in your lives?
Yes.
Okay.
when a witness opts out, can they
And
change their
did he
mind?
support you in your endeavors?
Yes.
Okay. And specifically, just prior to his death, had he given you some support?
Right. Check to take up to trucking academy to go to school for trucking.
Okay. And do you remember when that was?
That was the day before everything had happened, 21st of April. He gave it to me to take up there. That night, he called me to make sure that I got it up there and everything was squared away with that.
Do you have a recollection of approximately what time that was that he called you?
I want to say around 9 o'clock or something like that.
Okay. And did he provide the same kind of support to the rest of your sisters and brother?
Yes.
And how often would you see him, would you say, through the week?
I'd say at least 3 or 4 times a week.
And how far away is Miller's Lane from where he was living on Left Fork?
It's probably maybe like a 20, 25-minute drive.
And do you know where he was working at that time?
U.S. Utilities in Columbus.
And do you know how long he had worked there?
For 2 to 3 years, I do believe.
Has he always worked?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know what kinds of things he did prior to working at U.S. Utilities?
Yeah. Before U.S. Utilities, he was an iron worker. Before that, he was driving dozer and backhoes. Then before that, he did sit about 15, 16 years at Crown Over Lumber.
You say Carter Lumber?
Crown Overs.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Did you know his habits when he was working at U.S. Utilities in Columbus? Like what he would do in the morning prior to going to work?
Sometimes he'd wake up and go take a shower at his brother Chris's.
Okay.
If he didn't need a shower or whatever beforehand, he'd just get up, he'd head to Columbus and go to work.
And he would work in the mornings there?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you say that your dad had a close relationship with his siblings?
Yes.
And would you say he was particularly close to Chris?
Yes.
And where was your dad living at that time?
He's living down Left Fork.
Okay. And do you know how long he had lived there?
I want to say probably 3 or 4 years, something like that. I'm not real sure.
Okay. Where did he live prior to that? Do you know?
Prior to that, he lived out on Union Hill at the Yellow House.
The yellow house that sits to the left of Chris's trailer?
Yeah.
If you're facing Chris's trailer?
Yeah, if you're facing it, it'd be on the left, yeah.
Okay, all right. But he moved out of that location.
Yeah, he moved out of that location, and I think he moved down there for a split moment down on the left where his brother Brady lived at this time now. Then he moved down to where he is now.
Okay. And that's property that he owned, right?
Right.
The family owned.
Yeah, I think Chris and my dad went and bought that piece of land he was living on.
Okay. And you said his other brother Brady lived nearby?
Yes, he lived close.
Okay. On Left Fork Road as well?
Yes.
And can you tell us, did you ever know your father to grow marijuana?
Yes.
And how did you know that?
He's my father. I was around him.
Okay, all right. And did you know if he was growing marijuana at Left Fork Road?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and did you know where?
Yes, I did.
And where was that?
That was in the bottom of the shack that was sitting on the property.
Okay. And did you ever help your father with that?
Yes, I have. I helped him trim.
Okay. When you lived on Miller's Lane, were you ever aware of your father growing marijuana
Not till later on in the years.
later on in the years?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever know the Wagners?
Not a lot.
Okay. Can you tell us what contact, if any, did you have with, let's say, Jake Wagner?
There was a time that him and Hannah came over to Miller's Lane one time, and he was talking to me about getting a tattoo.
Okay. How many other times would you say you encountered Jake Wagner?
I think I met him out there at Chris's once before.
Okay.
And one time we went swimming down there in Brady's Pond, back behind the place there.
Okay.
And I can't really remember any other times.
Okay. And what about George Wagner?
I think I met him one time, and that was the time we went swimming down Brady's Pond.
The same time that you'd seen Jake?
Right.
Okay. So there's a pond behind your Uncle Brady's
Correct.
place. Okay. There on Left Fork Road.
Yes.
And do you recall who all went swimming at that time?
I know it was me, Hannah, Jake, George. I think it was his woman, and I think a couple other people. I can't really recollect who it was.
But that's the only time you encountered George Wagner.
Right.
Okay. And what about Billy Wagner?
Yeah. One time we was out at his property one time. It was the one that's pretty far off the grid. And my dad and Chris loaned him the backhoe for him to do something. And he went out to start the backhoe up, and the backhoe wouldn't start. So he got a hold of my dad and Chris. They brought out some tarps and space heater and all that to get the backhoe warmed up in order to get it started. And I seen I was standing there on the trailer, and he was standing beside me, and he said, he looked at me and said, "You see those two people?" He said, "They're some really good people." He said, "But if I ever had to fuck with them, that they had to shoot them."
If they ever had to what?
Mess with him, if he had a tussle with him, whatever, that he'd have to shoot him.
Did he explain why that was, or did he say anything more?
No, that was it.
But he was telling you that they were really great people
Yeah,
first.
right.
Okay. And you said that he brought out a heater. Was it cold time of year?
Yeah, it was. I can't really remember what time of the year it was, but I do know it was cold.
Okay.
They had to bring out a kerosene space heater, put underneath the tarp, and get everything heated up.
Okay. And you said it was off the grid. Did you have to go up a long hill to get up to it?
You pulled off the road there, and it's like I don't know, probably about a mile back in there, down a gravel road type deal, dirt gravel.
Okay. Taking you to, well, let me ask you this. Did you know Frankie Roden?
Yes,
Obviously. And were you close with him?
I was closer to him when I was younger, but I was still as close to him when we got older.
Okay. And did you know that Frankie did derby car racing?
Yes,
Okay. Did you ever go with him or watch him or anything?
Yes.
Or did you ever participate in that or?
yes,
Okay. And what about chicken fighting?
yes,
Okay. You knew that he did that?
yes,
Did you ever go with him when he would do that?
yes.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, where would those various places be?
There's a couple of times we was out, went out to my buddy Curry out. It's like on the backside of Louisville.
Okay.
I'm listening, y'all, and I'm here, but I'm also watching something
Did
else
you know Frankie to hunt?
unfold
Yes.
in the
Did you ever go hunting with
Valo
him?
Daybell case.
No,
So I
You
can
don't
bring
hunt?
you the latest
I
update
do.
on that.
I just didn't get to go with him. So.
Okay. And you kind of already answered this because I think you said you only met George Wagner that one time, but did you ever see George and Frankie together?
No,
Taking you to April 22nd of 2016, can you tell us when you first learned that there was something wrong?
my mom came into my bedroom and said that I needed to get up, and Chris and everybody out there shot up on the hill.
Oh my gosh.
Chris and everybody was out there shot up on the hill?
Yeah,
Did she indicate to you how she knew that?
she received a phone call.
So what did you do at that time?
I got up, got dressed. We headed out towards the hill. We ended up at the church out there across from Union Hill.
Okay. And you said you headed up to the hill. You knew where Chris Sr. lived,
Right.
obviously, because your father had lived on that same property for a long time.
Yeah.
And can you tell us which direction, did you try to go to their homes at all before you went to the church, or did you just go directly to the church?
We tried to go to their house, the long way around up 772 and all that. We went that way and we couldn't get down through there. So we ended up going out to the church after we figured out we wasn't able to get through.
Okay. And when you say you weren't able to get through, why weren't you able to get through?
It was all blocked off at the time.
Okay, blocked off by what?
Ambulance and I'm not real for sure. I think sheriff, maybe. I'm not real sure.
Okay. Official vehicles that weren't letting you go by.
Correct.
Okay. And when you come in that direction, whose house would you have arrived at first?
It would have been Frankie's.
Yes, sleuths.
And then do you know how you knew
Same.
to go to the church?
Somebody came up and let us know that they was all meeting over at the church.
While you were trying to get through there?
Right.
They informed you to go to the church?
Right.
People were gathering at the church? Okay.
Yeah.
And so you went to the church. Do you have any idea approximately what time you were there at the church?
No, honestly, I don't.
Okay, all right. During this time, do you make any attempts to contact your father?
Yes, tried contacting about a dozen times. Never received anything back from him.
Okay. Is that normal?
No.
Okay. And he would have been working that day, right?
Right.
At the U.S. Utilities place?
Right.
Okay. Do you know if anybody else tried to contact him that day?
I'm not real sure.
Okay. And you had called him at least a dozen times and not
Oh,
received
I'm already
anything back.
annoyed, y'all.
Right.
Okay.
Not with
At
this,
that point,
with the Vallow
do you get
situation. We're going to
concerned?
get to it
Yes,
after
I do.
this.
Okay. And so what do you decide to do as a result of that concern?
I would try to go down to see if my father was still at the house, well, down to his camper, because sometimes when his blood pressure and stuff starts messing with him, he'd get real bad sick and he'd just lay there in bed, take off work, whatever he had to do at the moment.
Okay. And do you know whether or not he gets a good cell phone service out there?
No, barely anything.
Okay. So you thought maybe he was just homesick because of his blood pressure and
Right.
okay. And maybe not getting your phone calls. at that
Right.
point. Okay. Do you recall who you went out there with?
It was me, Donald, and I want to say Sean Watson. I'm not real sure if he was with us at that moment or not. It was kind of like more like a rush at that moment after I realized that he was there.
Okay. So who is Donald Stone?
He's my cousin.
Okay. And who is Sean Watson?
My cousin.
Okay. And do you recall who drove?
I think it was me, I do believe.
You thought it was you?
Yeah.
Okay. And you went down to your dad's. What did you do when you got there?
I seen his truck still in the driveway, so I got out and walk up to the door and just see if I can get a response from him so I can let him know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I opened up the door, hollered in there at him, and he didn't respond. And Donald, he stepped up in there and looked, and he ran past me and told me to get out. Like,
Excuse me. Bless his
he'd
heart.
been shot. Type deal.
He told you he had been shot?
He said there's blood all over his face.
And
See
so what did you do then?
how the transcription is not right? He said all over, not Oliver.
Left the camper at that moment.
Or the closed
We-
captions. You
we
can't be
looked
relying
around.
on them.
And see if there was anything that we could see. Then walk back to the road. Then Donald, he tried getting a hold of the cops.
Okay.
Boy, she is writing furiously.
And were you able to get a hold of the cops?
I think he finally did ever get a hold of him. I do believe he did.
Okay.
Then, in the meanwhile, I was sitting there waiting on them. My sister showed up there, and then they took me
So
to
sad.
down here to the sheriff's department.
Bless his heart.
Okay. Which sister showed up?
Tatiana.
Okay.
Just breaks my heart the way this
And when
family
you were
found
waiting
out.
for the police to come, where were you located at that time?
Standing at the end of the driveway.
Okay. And when you first got there, do you recall where you parked or anything?
We pulled down in the driveway right behind his truck.
when you were inside of that, your dad's home, did you step up at all into his bedroom?
I don't believe I stepped up in his bedroom. I may have stepped on the step right there, maybe.
Okay.
No, I don't believe I stepped into his bedroom.
Okay. Were you able to see any part of him from where you were?
I was able to see his leg and the top of his head, and the blanket was actually placed like it had been placed on him.
Okay. There was a blanket on him?
Right.
Okay. Were you able to see his face at that time at all?
No, I could just see his forehead and his hair.
So you did not see any injuries or the blood that Donald saw?
Correct.
Okay. And you said that you could see his leg. Was there anything else on the bed that you saw by near his leg?
I seen probably, I don't know how much, but like a few ones and fives and stuff like that. Some money, paper money.
Okay.
And his pants was laying there beside it.
Do you know somebody named Brett Hatfield?
Yes, I do.
And how do you know him?
Friend of the family.
Okay. For how long?
I would say, I'd probably say close to 7 years or so, something like that.
Okay. And did he arrive at some point?
Yes, he did. Whenever we were sitting there waiting on the cops to come and all that, he showed up on his four-wheeler and just did like a scam over my dad's property behind his trailer and stuff like that.
Okay. And do you know what he was looking for at the time?
Cameras, seeing if the cameras was still around to see if there was any, if he could find out if there was any footage, more or less.
Okay. So if any of the cameras caught anything that
Right.
happened. Okay.
Again, with the blanket over the face, which is interesting
And
on a couple of levels, and we will definitely get to that.
did you personally touch anything in your dad's camper or disturb anything?
Just the door.
Okay. And what about the dog at that time? Where was his
Dog was still inside.
Okay. What is that dog's name?
Brownie.
Okay. And does Brownie stay inside or outside?
Most of the time, at nighttime, she usually is inside.
Okay. And by daytime?
Daytime, my dad usually lets her out during the day, so whenever he's out, goes to work and stuff, then he'll let her back in when he comes back.
Okay. All right. So if he's gone, does he talk to me about the lock on that door? Does he lock the place when he leaves?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
He uses a padlock on the outside.
Okay. So when he's inside the trailer at night, is that?
As far as I'm aware, I think the locks on the door works on whenever he's on the inside.
Okay.
So I figure, he'd lock the door whenever he's asleep. So,
Right. Okay. But do you know if he had it locked or not?
well, whenever we got there,
Mhm.
the door, we opened it and it had no issue opening.
Okay. So you didn't have to use force or anything?
Right.
Okay.
I don't want to talk over him too much,
You said you went to the police station that day,
Right.
correct? And
but I have some thoughts about the blankets.
Did you go in a cruiser or did you drive yourself?
I went in a cruiser.
Okay. And do you recall, was that sheriff's or police or?
It is sheriff.
Sheriff's. And where did you go to give an interview?
Right over to the old sheriff department.
Okay. And did they take anything from you? Any DNA or fingerprints or clothing or anything?
I honestly can't remember.
Okay. Do you recall if they took pictures of you or anything?
I can't remember.
Okay, all right.
Bless his heart, that day probably seems like a blur.
And how long after the police came did they remove you from the scene and take you there? Do you recall?
It was as soon as they got there, they took me in. Probably about a half hour to 45 minutes, probably something like that. I'd say when time they got there.
Okay, so they arrived, and then approximately 30 or 45 minutes later, they took you to the station to be interviewed.
I don't know that as soon as they got there,
Okay.
like maybe 10, 15 minutes, it was already gone.
Okay.
I think he was saying that it took him like that long to get there, 45 minutes. That's what it seems like he's saying. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm going to ask you to step down from this stand if you don't mind. Want to ask you some questions. This is D as in dog 286. First of all, do you recognize that property? Okay. And can you tell us, first of all, where is the home that you found him in? And this thing over here, that's also part of his property, is that correct?
Yes.
Yep. You said that was the camper he lived in before he got this one?
Yes.
Okay. And, what is this here?
That is where he was running marijuana down the bottom of that shack.
Okay. And when you pulled in, can you tell us approximately where you would have parked when you first pulled in the driveway?
Right up there. Well, when we first pull in, you pulling up here, come down through.
Okay. And then when you were waiting for the police, where did you wait for them?
I think it's the driveway.
Okay, so off this picture, basically. Okay. Let's walk down here into the second. These other doors can also see. Show us where this home is. And the other place that you used to live before you got that. And then where the home was. And where you would have been parked. And then when you were waiting for the police, where would that have been? But off this. Okay. Well, no, not that. Sorry. States exhibit D287. So this is just a diagram of his father's home.
Yeah.
Obviously, the front porch he entered. And then can you tell us, when you initially entered, where you went? Say it again, a little louder, please.
I went to right out here, Bob was in.
Okay. And then Donald came in.
Yeah, he came in behind me. He came behind me around me. Up on top platform there.
Okay, so he went actually up into the bedroom or standing on the same floor as the bedroom.
Right.
Okay, but you did not do that.
Correct.
Okay. And then when you exited, you just exited the same way you came in, I assume.
Correct.
Okay. So you weren't over here at all. Okay. Go ahead and do that over here. Oh, sorry. Again, if you want to just show where you went, when you entered. And then the double entered. All right. Okay. D1, which is 1872. Do you recognize that? I'm sorry, I did not tell you. Yep, they're displayed for you right there. Can you look at that and tell me if you recognize that location?
Yes, it's my father's place.
Okay.
Bless his
And I
heart.
neglected to ask you, did your father have a sensor at the end of his driveway?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and tell us about that. What did that do if you passed by it?
It's kind of like a doorbell type deal
Okay,
that was inside of his house.
okay,
So whenever someone passed by at the end of the driveway, it would make a ding sound inside of his trailer.
okay. Do you know if that was working?
I was told that somebody told me that it wasn't working like a day or two or whatever prior to that.
A day or two prior to that?
Right.
Okay.
That's interesting.
So, okay. States Exhibit 1888 D17. And do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and are the vehicles in that, do both of those vehicles that you can see there belong to your father?
Yes, the black truck was my father's. The blue one was my buddy John's.
The blue one?
Yes.
Okay. Was your buddy Don's?
Yes.
What's his last name?
Bailey.
Okay. And why was it there at your father's place?
Because my dad was working out a bit with John on the truck about buying it off of him.
He was buying the truck off of John?
Correct.
Okay. $1904 D33.
Now I'm curious about that
And again, is
sensor
the
at the
truck
end
in
of
the
the
forefront the
driveway.
one that your father would drive?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then the car there, do you recognize that?
Yes, it was his little Cavalier he had
Okay,
that I think he got off of Michael Dave, I do believe.
okay. And then D48, 1919. And is that the picture of the little camper that he lived in prior to getting the bigger one?
Yes.
Okay. And D50, which is 1921. And you can see the structure there, the little shack, I think you referred it to, as far as where the marijuana was grown there.
Correct.
Okay. To the right of your father's home, as you face it, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are those hummingbird feeders as well? In the bush
Yes.
over there? Okay. D63, which is 1934. This is obviously taken from in front of your father's home,
Yes.
looking out towards the road.
Yeah.
Okay, when you say that you waited at the end of the driveway, you can see that there are vehicles up there on the road and there's people. I think that's BCI vehicles at that point. But can you tell me if you can see in that picture where you would have been?
Yeah, you can see where there's two people standing there.
Yep.
It'd be on this side of the road towards my dad's camper, though.
Okay.
That's where we would have been at.
Okay. So just in that general area.
Right.
Okay. All right. Did your dad have any cameras on his property?
Yes, he had one outside up in a tree that I knew about
Okay.
that was close to his camper. And he had another one inside the grow room that I know about.
Okay. And where would those images be captured?
As soon as someone would walk in, they'd be captured as whenever they would walk into the grow room.
Okay.
And the other one would be as soon as you would walk in between the camper and the grow room there, then that would where you'd be captured at by the one in the tree.
Okay. And had you ever seen those images? Like, had you ever seen?
Any of the images is off of the camera? No.
Mm-hmm. Okay. D 128, 1999. At the front door of your father's home.
Yes.
And D 130.
Hey, Bessie Cakes, good to see ya.
Again, is that the front door of your father's home?
Yes.
And D 133, which is 2004. Can you see the padlock on the ground in that photograph?
Yes.
Okay. And was that how it was when you arrived at that location?
Yes.
Okay. You did not remove that?
No.
Okay. D 132, which is 2003. And what is that?
It's my father's phone.
Luke
Okay.
is doing incredibly
And where is that
well.
located in that photograph?
You know this
In
is
the
hard
window
for
in the
him.
bedroom.
Okay. And do you know why he would have kept it there?
That's the only place he really got service at down there.
Okay. So he would regularly put the phone in the window just in order to get good reception.
Right.
D 138, which is 2010. And do you see in that photograph where you would have been when you first entered?
Yes.
And where would you say that was?
Between the little statue and the cabinets.
Okay. And then the steps that you're talking about appear to be off to the right there in that picture?
Yes.
Okay. And does that lead to your father's bedroom?
Yes, it does.
And that's where Donald Stone would have gone?
Correct.
D 163, which is 2035. Oh, yeah, should not be.
Will council approach here in just a minute?
Okay, so while they're having a sidebar, I want to talk just briefly about this whole putting blankets over the victims situation. So I thought about it, and obviously, the most obvious reason for doing that is usually implies not that the perpetrator knew the victim. But I think there's an added, more sinister element to this because the Wagner family wouldn't know for sure which home would have been visited first. I'm just going to pause it really quick so I can just finish this thought.
You don't know what number it said?
The Wagner family would have no way of knowing for sure whose home would be entered first and by whom. And it seems to me that if you enter somebody's home, let's say it had been Kenneth's home, um, and there wasn't anything on the news. This is the first home that's entered, right? They're covering the victims. Anybody that went into that home might think that the victim was asleep in bed, and upon approaching the bed, perhaps would move the covers. Do you see what I mean? And I feel that, I don't know, it just makes me think that there was like as much sinister behavior as there was that day. I feel like they took extra steps to just be even more cruel. Excuse me, if that makes
Correct.
sense.
And can you tell us what that is a photo of?
Yes, it's my father's bedroom.
Okay. And D1712043. And what is that a photo of?
And my father.
Oh, bless his heart.
Does that represent what you saw that day?
Yeah, I don't remember the blanket being that way though.
Okay. But you did not touch or move the blanket.
Correct.
And did you see Donald Stone move or touch anything?
No.
Okay. The money and everything that you described are there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's good, Andy. And you did not go up any further and you did not see his face at all. Is that correct?
Right.
D86, which is 1957. And again, is that the place where the marijuana was located?
Yes.
And D88, which is 1959. Do you see the camera located there
Yes, I do.
outside? And where do you see that?
At the corner of the building, at the top.
The corner at the top? Okay,
Yeah.
and is this the one where you said that it basically caught you on the outside in
No.
between his house and that location?
No, the one I was talking about was a trail camera.
Okay. And you don't see that in this picture?
No.
And where would that have been located?
There was a tree a little above it, and it had been up inside the tree,
Okay,
pointing down.
okay. So it was more, would it then have been, if you're facing his home,
Right. It had been,
kind of behind it?
yeah,
Okay. On the right side? Is
yeah,
that correct?
yeah.
Okay. Mhm. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, D89, 1960. So do you know what that was capturing, or if that was capturing anything?
No, I did not.
And then D90, which is 1961. Do you see a camera there?
Yes, I do.
And is that a camera that you knew was there or that was capturing images?
No.
Okay. So are you talking about inside the grow?
Yeah, there was a camera inside the grove, which was another trail camera as well.
Okay. And do you know where those were located?
One, the trail camera that was inside was right above the door.
D95, which is 1966. And what is that?
Inside of the grow room.
Okay, is that when you first enter?
Yeah.
Okay. And D102, which is 1973. Do you see anywhere in there where the camera would have been?
No, that's actually the kind of like towards the place where it's towards facing it.
Okay. And then did the, was there a downstairs to that?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any idea how many plants were there?
No, I do not.
Okay. D120. Sorry, 1991. And can you tell us what that is?
Grow room.
Okay. Located on your father's
Underneath.
property?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that in the downstairs area?
Yes.
Okay. And then D118, 1989. And can you tell us what that is?
Grow room.
And you indicated you had been in that grow room before.
Correct.
Does that fairly depict how you recall it being, or how?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to show you a few photographs that I believe they took at the, do you remember where you went? Was it to the sheriff's office when they took you there?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, please, sorry. Is that you in that photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and next photo, please. Yep, P10.
First one was P9. This one's P10. Maybe P9 here.
And those are your shoes there that
Yes.
they photographed, okay, and P11. Also your shoes,
Yes.
and P12.
Yes.
Those are your shoes, okay. Thank you. You did not, or did you go into any of the homes up on Union Hill Road, either Chris's or Frankie's or Dana's on that day?
No.
Okay. And in fact, you had not even been able to get close to them. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay. And those were the clothes that you were wearing when you went to your father's home that day?
Yes.
Okay, and you did not change your clothes or anything?
No.
Before the police arrived and
No.
took you there? Okay. Luke, can you tell us, were there times that you knew your dad to be a heavy sleeper?
Yes.
Okay, and tell us about that.
Time his heavy sleeper was whenever he wasn't feeling good.
Okay.
But most of the time, whenever he was feeling okay, then somebody would be outside or whatever, he'd be up.
Okay. So he was either a fairly light sleeper if he felt good, but if he felt bad, and you said that was related to his blood pressure?
Correct.
Okay. And during the times that he was a heavy sleeper, could you walk into his trailer without him rousing?
No, if he was not a heavy sleeper.
When he was a heavy
Oh,
sleeper,
yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Did you ever have that experience where you had walked in and yelled for him and he didn't wake up?
No,
Before?
not
Okay.
whenever I went there and hollered at him. No.
Okay.
No, I have went in there and hollered at him, and he would wake up.
Okay, all right. Was there a time when Chris Roden had gotten beat up and your father retaliated against that guy?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if there was anybody with your father when he retaliated against that guy?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I have to step away from the witness again, sorry. We're back to D286. Can you tell us if you can see in this photo where that trash can that you said was in the tree? Do you remember? Okay. So the tree kind of right behind that shack there, facing kind of between that location. Okay, was it focused on the door of the shack or was it more between?
More focused on the door and the pathway.
Okay, but as you approach that area.
Right.
Okay, let's walk down here. All right. You go ahead and show these pictures. I have no other questions, Your Honor.
The defense may cross-examine.
12:15, practice.
Do it after lunch.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Oh, here we
Yes.
go. So either, so depending on what the sidebar is about, which I'm thinking that the defense wants lunch, the state wants to be done with this witness. I don't know how the judge is going to rule. So we'll either go over to the Lori Vallow hearing that's taking place, ironically, about cameras in the courtroom during the trial, or we'll stay here and watch. I don't know. Also, I was perusing
All right,
through
ladies
some
and gentlemen,
stuff.
we're going to take a lunch break now. It is 12:15 approximately. So at 1:15, be down at the jury room from which you will be.
Yeah, sure, Honor. We will all meet there. Okay. I was looking at some stuff while I was listening to this, and it's probably occurred to all of you guys, but it has not occurred to yours truly, that the vest that Mr. George Washington Wagner IV is wearing is leather. I didn't realize that. Part of it is leather. Okay. So let me stop sharing this. Let me close this tab. Let me go over to the StreamYards. Let me share this screen. Well, we're going to catch up on all the news today. Yes, it's leather. I did not realize that. Yes. Y'all. All right, here we go.
Training. I mean, it's better training than I could do. I mean, that's the purpose. The reason for being here is to ensure that we comply with the court's order. And communications at the table
Oh, let me
are
take this sticker
treated,
off.
maybe
Sorry,
that's
you
the better way
guys.
to say it, treated as confidential. If they blurt something out, that's beyond your or my control. But they're treated as confidential. They are not recorded. What the court hears when it reviews that the broadcast that was submitted on.
Okay, so what's happening here is these are motions for cameras to not be allowed in the courtroom. And one of the things that Lori Vallow's lawyers argued earlier was basically that he did not like it that during the last hearing, the camera zoomed in on his client. He didn't appreciate that. And that it would impede her right to a fair trial. Which I'm going to tell you right now, he's doing his job. His job is to advocate for his client, okay? And the truth of the matter is, I don't know how that would impede her right to a fair trial, because the jury will be admonished. They will not be allowed to view anything online during the day, like do their own research. They'll not be allowed to watch the trial back, on any of the news, local news, court TV, Law and Crime Network, yada yada yada. So I'm not exactly sure how having media in the courtroom is going to impede her right to a fair trial, but let's continue.
Believe by the state. It will hear what was recorded. It's the same thing. There's no editing, there's no filtering, because all of the effort is placed here in the courtroom to ensure that compliance. Does that help the court?
It does, and I do appreciate the way you answered and the responses to my questions, Mr. Wright. I'm not trying to be loud here. I just have some very real concerns, and I do appreciate the way you responded.
Of course, because if the court has concerns, I want to address them. I totally agree. I take no offense and certainly hope I haven't argued with the court at all. My goal has truly been to respond to those concerns. But those concerns are based on what we think is an overbroad approach to shut down pretrial publicity and frankly to accuse the media of some wrongdoing that it simply didn't do. If the court, we have no objection to the court reviewing, it's open to the public. The court should of course be able to review that information. That's the very purpose. And if the court sees a concern, I have a concern, or even that the camera was located where it was. But again, the point is it's within the court's control. We just ask that the court continue to exercise the control that it has. The arguments, at least in part, seem to assume this court isn't in total control and these things are just kind of happening, or more importantly, might happen. And that's simply not true. This court, the media will follow what this court directs, of course. If I may just look, see if I have any other comments. I may have a moment.
And let me say this also while he's reviewing his notes. I'm
not sure if I would address this, Your Honor, more the technical aspect. With regard to multiple cameras, again, the goal is to avoid distraction. So the reason for multiple cameras, whether it be 2 or 3, we respectfully submit 2 or 3, especially as they're used, it does not create a distraction. The reason for that is our goal is not to move them. And so if the camera is showing something and say a confidential communication occurs, I've addressed already how the microphone it is shut down. And again, what happens, what's recorded is what's broadcast, so the court would know if there's a problem there. But that allows us the ability to immediately go to another camera, taken off whatever might be a confidential communication or whatever the court determines is inappropriate. And so there is actually, where possible, a need for multiple cameras because we don't, I'm sure the court doesn't want to see distracting cameras panning or moving around. And yet we need to be able to get off whatever it is that might be an inappropriate thing to show. So I hope from a technical standpoint that provides the court some guidance as well. And recognizing the court's concern about third parties' involvement, I want to point out that if the court's sound system is used, if anybody says anything into the microphone, it's picked up for better or worse. We actually have the ability to control and make sure that doesn't happen. It also, and I don't know about the quality here, I don't mean to impugn it at all, but the quality of the audio is important. FCC standards require a certain level of quality for closed caption, things of that nature. And again, these things can all help facilitate what we believe is the court's correct balancing of these interests. When I say balance, please don't misunderstand that I'm trying to say somehow the defendant's rights need to be sacrificed. What I'm saying is they can be balanced without sacrificing those rights. And I respectfully submit that going to the other extreme of banning cameras from the courtroom, whatever the court might do or was requested with regard to microphones, actually interferes with that rather than helps ensure the decorum the court demands it is in fact respected. Did I mention if at least Court TV has the ability to provide mutable microphones if that's something that the court wants?
I agree. Allow them in the courtroom. Let's watch. We want to watch this trial. We'll behave.
I would suggest, Your Honor, not that this, I don't know what relevance it has to the court, but we respectfully disagree that there was some unusual happenings that occurred. For a high-profile matter, even the camera placements and the microphones, as Ms. Wong states in the declaration, who's been involved in many of these matters, was not unusual. That isn't somehow binding on the court, but I just want, I want to respond to this idea that what happened on August 16th was an atypical situation. It was a typical situation for atypical circumstances, if I may put it that way. I guess in conclusion, Your Honor, I'm concerned when this motion is used as a means to attempt to curtail pretrial publicity, when the United States Supreme Court has indicated that there are other means to do so. And I know the court knows this because the court has thoroughly considered those issues in the decisions that it's made.
I believe it's at the lowest
pretrial publicity won't
setting.
stop. The accuracy
Sleuths.
of what happens in here or how it's reported
And I believe it's
may
intentional.
be hindered
What about the volume
of the interest.
of the publicity?
Again, I'm not sure.
In other words, if you can read about hearing in the newspaper versus watching it live on social media, what do you think is the volume of one versus the other?
Well, I guess that's what concerns me, Your Honor, is when the purpose is to control the spigot in a way that says, well, we'll be able to
That's
tamp it
right,
down
we do.
this way. Because if we do it this way, more people will watch. The level of interest, I mean, it is not based on the media. It is based on the circumstances.
Correct,
And I
100%.
respectfully submit to the court that when the court looks at trying to,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
sure this, right? Doesn't the media, they promote certain stories. I know this.
Well, the media, I mean, he's to an extent, the judge is right. The media does promote certain stories. We've talked about this on this channel a lot of times, where there are certain cases that get a crazy amount of media coverage where other cases do not. But at the end of the day, the truth of the matter really is this: it's the law of supply and demand. So if people are watching, the media is going to keep covering, and that's just the truth. And this is one of those cases that was so intriguing from the jump, from jump. And the other thing I wanted to point out real quick, Sleuths, is that I think that's part of the reason why they may have lowered her seat, but also it's to prevent the camera that is in the courtroom from being able to, from being able to zoom in on her face. The her attorney had a strong I don't want to say objection because that's actually a legal term, but he was very he was displeased by the amount of times that the camera was able to zoom in on Lori Vallow.
I can have a routine standard hearing in this case. I know it goes out on tons of media outlets and it's publicized everywhere and it's promoted. And 2 weeks ago, I have a change of plea hearing in Madison County where someone pleads guilty to a murder charge. Not one reporter or that I ever saw in the local news, I occasionally got a story on it at all. So sure, certainly publicity and promotion of that publicity go hand in hand. And the concern here again is we're not to trial yet. We've already had to transfer venue because of the publicity and the promotion of that publicity. And what's wrong with considering that we need to try to control that so we can get a jury pick that hasn't already made up their mind and make us have a mistrial for not having enough jurors that haven't already been tainted by pretrial publicity.
Well, of course, the court is correct in its concerns, and I don't have any argument with that. My concern is in the way that the court's concern is addressed. Simply assuming that because there is publicity, even internationally, an Ada County jury can't be found, I think is a reach. Other than just the general premise that the more people hear about it, the more possible it is that there will be people that have prejudged the case. That's like taking a sledgehammer to an issue where a scalpel is appropriate. And so I recognize the concern. You're not quibble with it at all. My concern is with the manner in which it is addressed. And I do respectfully come back to the idea to say, well, if you want to know about this case firsthand, then you must physically come here. Otherwise, you'll rely on the reporting, which won't be as accurate by definition as the firsthand experience, which is within the control of the court.
I mean, low key, she acts a fool in court. It is what it is.
Okay. I appreciate again the court's time. We respectfully request that this motion be denied because the power always has been within this court and has been appropriately exercised. And if the court determines there's an adjustment on fine tuning some of the things that it will permit, we respect that. Our concern is what we think is a vast overreaction to appropriate prudent conduct of the media that will hinder what we still feel is an important function that doesn't have to be sacrificed to ensure the defendant's constitutional rights. Does the court have any other questions for me?
I don't, Mr. Wright. I appreciate your professional your arguments today, responding to the questions.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Counsel, Mr. Armstrong, Mr. Wood, the court engaged in quite a few questions with Mr. Wright and indicated some of my expressed concerns here. If you'd like, I would offer you an opportunity to respond. It's a rebuttal argument if you like what Mr. Wright's offered here. Mr. Archibald's here, no further than that.
Just briefly, Your Honor, the media's argument that we were in compliance with court orders is exactly the problem, because the orders weren't specific enough as to what they could do and not do. So we let them police themselves. And when we let the media police themselves, what did they do? They put microphones on our tables, put a camera right in front of us. That had not been done in the other hearings, which I have never seen. And so that's why our motion to clarify, so that the court can, as Mr. Wright suggested, take a scalpel to this order and say, no cameras zooming in on the defendant, no microphones on the table, no live feed. The court does have the discretion to modify these current court orders. These current court orders are forms. They're used in routine cases. And again, I've never had to ask for a modification because we in the past have been respectful of each other, and they just crossed the line last hearing. That's why I brought the motion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Archibald. Mr. Wood, with state by talking and vote.
Just briefly, Your Honor, to the state, compliance isn't the issue, it's just the effects of that pretrial publicity. At one point, I think Mr. Wright did say that the harm was an assumption. Well, it's not an assumption. The taxpayers in Madison and Fremont County were paying a lot more for this trial because of pretrial publicity. That is not an assumption. And so I do take issue with that. I won't comment on the issue with the microphones anymore. I think the court's comments show that it understands at least our concerns. I guess the only thing I would add is if the state still believes that the best remedy is simply to remove video cameras from the courtroom. If the court decides to take a different approach, we would request that the state and the defense be put on notice as to the location of the cameras before any hearing takes place.
All right, thank you for your comments, Mr. Wood.
Okay, I think I understand I think I have a better overview of what they're
Can I have
asking.
permission to be excused unless the court was going to rule from the.
I don't intend to rule from the bench, Mr. Wright, so you can just thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's all I've considered this issue. Needs to be under advisement because it will result in a ruling regardless of future effect on how these proceedings take place, and needs instruction on what we will or won't allow in terms of cameras and like third parties and corporate for future proceedings. I'll be considering that both in context of pre-trial motions and the trial itself. I'll carefully consider these issues that have been raised, and the court will issue a decision. That concludes our hearings for this morning. And Mr. Archibald, anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Archibald, Mr. Wood, anything further from the state today?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thanks everyone for your recess. All right.
Okay. So I don't think this hearing is actually about the trial so much as it is about future pretrial hearings. And what I will say is this: there must be a compromise in there somewhere. Now, given the interest in this case, I will agree that having so many of all of up until this point hearings pretrial hearings on this case, there is I can agree and see that there is a potential for tainting the jury pool with the pretrial hearings. Okay, so I will agree that that is a concern, and I will also agree with the defense saying that putting microphones on the tables and the positioning of the cameras is an issue, and we should not. I agree with you, Corky, as well. We should not be able to. The public should not be able to hear what the defense or prosecution table is saying. That is it. There needs to be parameters put down, and that's absolutely. I will absolutely agree with that, and I would say that if the concern is that the this is I mean they're not wrong. They are going to have a difficult time anyway, okay, trying to get a jury pool going before they can even make jury selection. This is going to be a difficult situation because of the notoriety of this case in general. So that is a difficult, but there was, this is not the first case like this. Casey Anthony was like this. There's been a ton of cases like this that, you know, this has happened before. So I think that the other issue is that yes, the public is allowed to view these proceedings, number one. Um, and with the current climate in our country and around the world, specifically with the C word that we're not allowed to mention a lot on YouTube, um, there are measures that are taken to with the social distancing and yes, Scott Peterson to a ton, where the gallery isn't as full as it used to be, obviously for good reason. Okay, I'm not upset about the reasons. You have to deal with what is and not with what was, and things and times change. And I think that um, the fact that we have advanced with our technology and that these trials can be streamed, I think is a good thing. And I think that the media should be made to be responsible in their coverage of these hearings. So I think that there should be a compromise where they just amend the order and make it where, it's more um, specific and not as broad about, all of these issues that um, come up. And I think it's an important issue. Exactly, Sluice. And they are different now. They're different in many ways. They're different in the number of people that are allowed to be in the gallery watching because of social distancing. They are different in the way that the courts, um, some courts, nobody has to wear masks. Some courts, everybody has to wear masks. Look at the Yasser Saeed trial that we just watched a couple of weeks ago, where they had a mask mandate in the courtroom and the witnesses had to testify with the face guard things on, which I think is an excellent compromise because it gives you the ability to see the people who are testifying, their facial expressions, because that's all part of the testimony, what they're saying, how they're saying it, the body language, facial expressions, etc., like I mentioned. So that's important for the jury to be able to see, because that's how we judge situations as human beings. We judge um, verbal and nonverbal cues. It's innate in us. We can't control it. Um, so I think that it's a very interesting argument, and I do see that there is room for compromise, and I hope that that's what'll end up happening is that there will be a compromise, and that the media, should it go their way, and the motion is dismissed, insofar as that there isn't that they no longer allow cameras in the courtroom during these pretrial motions, but instead, so they dismiss it, and then they draft the court drafts new orders as far as the way that the media behaves. I would hope that the media would take this as they got lucky, and that they behave better in the future, because the zooming in on Lori Vallow, let's be honest, okay? We're watching it right now with the George Wagner trial. The the public and even the jury, it's human nature when there is a certain type of testimony occurring, that the jury, the people in the gallery watching, will go and look at, to see what the defendant's reaction is. It's just human nature. And so when Lori is sitting at the table, and she is, rolling her eyes, side eyeing, smirking, etc., those are facial expressions that are going to people are going to that even if people were present in the courtroom, they would be looking at. Now, would they be able to zoom in? Well, obviously, no, they would not. Okay, our eyes don't have zoom. However, she's going to be looked at, and that's just the truth. And perhaps if she doesn't want to be looked at, she should not have committed this crime. Now, what I'm very curious about with respect to Ms. Vallow over here is what her exact level of participation was. That's what I'm curious about, because I think we can all agree that she had a level of participation. But what we want to know is exactly what that level of participation was with respect to all of the charges, right? So hopefully like I said, there's going to be room for compromise, and the media recognizes that if the judge rules in their favor, that they behave accordingly, and so that we don't have situations like this again, because, obviously. But anyway, I want to thank all of you guys for being here. I will continue to monitor the trial, obviously. And I did commit to being on Like and Legion's channel tonight at 8 Eastern to discuss movies, a couple of movies and a couple of shows, specifically House of the Dragon. So if you want to, I will share the link to that live on my community tab. And I will say this, depending on the way the trial goes this afternoon, I if no, I mean, obviously I have to come on because I want to finish up Luke's testimony. So what I think I'm going to do is I will come live just 15 minutes late. So rather than 9 Eastern, I'm going to do 9:15 Eastern, because my first priority and commitment is to you guys. And I know without your support and without you guys watching, obviously I wouldn't even be a channel. And I just want to let you guys know how much I appreciate that, how appreciative and grateful I am for your patience with me when I have technical issues, when I'm telling the dog to come in the house and I'm saying it into the microphone because I didn't realize that I didn't have the yes, I will, that I didn't have the mic muted, because I'm only like 83% professional on a good day. and you guys are always patient with that, and don't judge me harshly, and I really appreciate that. And you guys ask really good questions and make really good comments that make me think about like tons of different things. And hold on, I'm gonna share this group really quick. Hold on. No, let me see. Bruh, it's been so long since I've like been on Facebook. I totally forgot how to do this. Here we go. I remembered. Okay, here we go. You guys are really great. And the other thing that's really great about y'all is that even when there's a little bit of um, a, debate going on in the chat, you're kind about it. You express your opinion, but you aren't dicks about it, which I appreciate that so much, because I don't like to really have to monitor the chat like for you know fighting and crap like that. Okay, hold on. Let me see. I'm gonna put it like this. All right, here is the link. And when you join that group, I believe, let me just verify right quick that the other groups that belong to that same group, their family of groups, I believe, are, I don't know if they're in here. Let me look. It doesn't show that. Hold on, let me look this way. I've totally forgotten how to navigate Facebook. Okay, this is what I would suggest you do. If you go, I know we're all adulting and shit. Proud of us. It can be done. Okay, so there are pages that manage the group, and what I used to do, and probably would still do this, is click on the pages, and usually pages advertise the other groups. So go do it like that. Aw. Thank you, Tony. Love y'all too. Y'all are just the best. And low key, I feel like there's like a part of my brain that intentionally does stuff that's not 100% polished, like yelling for the dog, hearing Alice come in like an absolute wrecking ball into the room. I don't know if you guys could hear it. I don't know if the mic picked it up, but she was batting up one of those balls with a bell in it. She came in here like, I don't know, like on a mission. And then Mac was in here hollering at me. So I feel like there's part of me that low key does that kind of stuff. Not, I guess intentionally is not the word, but like unconsciously or subconsciously to keep myself humble. Yeah, so I don't get all big headed about it. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm not the kind of person that could ever really be getting big headed, that's for sure. But I just feel like that's kind of the vibe in here. Just, we're all just chilling in the living room, talking true crime, you know, noticing that George Washington Wagner the Fourth is wearing a leather. It's not all leather, but it's the like the shoulder. I don't know how you like the technical term for it, but it's like the top part of it around the shoulders is leather. I don't know how I never noticed that before, but yeah. Oh, thank you, Super Mama D. That means a lot to me. Thank you very much. one of my favorites. I appreciate that. Well, all right, y'all. This is where I leave you. So just I'm gonna go live tonight, but I'll just be 15 minutes late. So at 9:15, I'm going to schedule it shortly. So you have actually I might wait a little bit. Somehow or another, the algorithm gets messed up if you allow too much time in between. So be looking for that reminder. I usually schedule the live like around 7 o'clock to give StreamYard and YouTube a 2 hour window. It seems to work best for notifications to go out if you do it that way. Probably actually doesn't have anything to do one way or the other, but in my mind, I think I've figured it out. So I'm just going to go with that. And I will share the other channel that I'll be on tonight. Oh, thank you, Cement Shoes. The other channel I'll be on tonight on my community tab if you guys want to come over there and support your girl. And then I'll have a good rest of your Thursday. And I'll see y'all tonight. All right. Y'all take care and stay safe on the real streets and on these YouTube streets. All right, you guys. Bye.